Hello, I'm WWE superstar Titus O'Neil, and today I'm coming to you as a neighbor. You owe it to yourself and those you love to get tested now. Get the care you need and protect your family. Hillsborough County is offering free coronavirus testing and no health insurance is needed. It costs you nothing to get tested. Visit hcflgov.net/staysafe for more information and have a reservation made today. Share this with a neighbor, and let's come together as a community and keep fighting to get through this. Together, we will come back stronger. God bless.
Hillsborough County, along with local and federal health experts, are encouraging residents to wear cloth face masks to cover their nose and mouth when in public to help stop the spread of COVID-19. There are not enough surgical face masks for everyone, and available ones should go to healthcare workers and first responders. It's easy to make your own face mask out of common household items. The CDC and U.S. Surgeon General say you can use an old scarf, bandana, or make one using a t-shirt plus 2 rubber bands. Cut part of the t-shirt into a square, fold it from the bottom to the middle, then from the middle to the top. Repeat those steps one more time, then add a rubber band to each side. Bring each end to the middle, then secure around your face. They should fit snugly but comfortably. Cloth face coverings should not be placed on children younger than 2 years of age or people who have trouble breathing. The CDC emphasizes that while wearing a face mask, you should still practice social distancing, stay 6 feet apart from others, and continue other preventative measures such as frequent hand washing. We encourage you to visit hcflgov.net/staysafe for up-to-date information.
Flossing in the morning is a really great way to keep your teeth healthy and start the day. But when you're through, here's what you do. Throw it in the trash, don't flush it. There's a problem lots of people don't know, called sanitary sewer overflow. A condition buried deep in the ground, inside a pipe where bad clouds are found. It's a problem we can all help solve, so throw it in the trash, don't flush it. Baby wipes, bandages, cotton pads, paper towels, dental floss, clog up bad. Medicines, kitty litter, cotton swabs, hair. Throw them in the trash, don't flush it. It just takes a second to do the right thing, so toss it and let's keep our pipes clean. Throw it in the trash, don't flush it. If it's not toilet paper, don't flush it. Even if it says you can, don't flush it. If you're having any doubts, don't flush it. One more time, don't flush it.
This is a battle we've never faced in my lifetime. I want to tell you about 416 of the most amazing people. Every day I get to see their skill, professionalism, and dedication. Their commitment to protect and improve the health of everyone in Hillsborough County. The last 2 months, they've been on the front line of a battle with a very dangerous enemy, COVID-19. And they've risen to the challenge in the most amazing, heroic way. Everyone has contributed, sacrificing their personal life, which they put on hold. They're making a difference for everyone they help, and every day I get stopped and told just how amazing they are. I'm proud and blessed to work with them, my second family.
Is your local business or organization looking to give back to the community? Help keep our roads clean by joining the Adopt a Road program administered by Keep Tampa Bay Beautiful. Keeping our roads clean is a great way for team building as well as exposure for your business. Select the road your business wants to adopt and dispatch a team to remove litter and debris. Participants will receive 2 signs showing their organization's name as well as safety equipment and instructions for cleaning roads. You can help keep Tampa Bay beautiful by adopting your own road today. To learn more, visit hcflgov.net/cleanhc.
So let's say that Tim here was returning to his vehicle only to find it missing. He may think it was either stolen or towed. Let's not worry too much, Tim. Hillsborough County wants you to know the rules and regulations should you find yourself stuck in this unfortunate situation. Here are a few rules and tips you should know. Rule number 1, permission to tow. Towing services need permission to tow from private property and must post signs with telephone numbers saying that the trespassing vehicles will be removed. If your vehicle is missing, look for a sign and call the number. Rule number 2, communication. As soon as your vehicle is delivered to the local towing facility, towing services must notify local law enforcement within a 30-minute time frame, and they must return calls from vehicle owners within 1 hour. Helpful tip number 1. Law enforcement can help motorists determine if their vehicle has been towed. If you don't see a posted sign, call the authorities on the non-emergency line. Rule number 3, retrieving your vehicle during a tow. Most people are unaware that you can still retrieve your vehicle while connected to the tow truck. For a drop fee of no more than half the towing rate, the tow truck operator must release the vehicle to its owner. When it comes to payment, tow truck drivers must accept the following: debit, cash, cashier's check, or money order. Rule number 4, personal property. If the owner is unable to pay the drop fee and their vehicle is in the hands of the towing company, owners still have the right to retrieve personal property from their vehicle. Helpful tip number 2. Having a registration and title in your name will make it easier to recover your vehicle. Tow companies will not hand over the vehicle if you are not the registered owner, unless you have an original notarized affidavit signed by the registered vehicle owner. Remember, Hillsborough County is here to help you. For complete, detailed information on towing rules and regulations, please visit us at hcflgov.net/consumer protection or give us a call at 813-635-8316.
20 seconds is all it takes for a toddler to drown. In less time than it takes to post on social media or change the laundry, a child can slip out a door and silently drown. Nearly all the children who drowned last year in the Tampa Bay area were last seen inside their home. Visit PreventNeedlessDeaths.com right now to learn more about simple steps you can take today to save a child's life.
Hillsborough County has teamed up with the Department of Health and other public health and safety agencies to address any impacts the virus may have on our local community. To help prevent the spread of the coronavirus, here are a few tips you should know. Practice proper hand washing by using soap and water and wash for at least 20 seconds. Use alcohol-based hand sanitizer if you cannot wash. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. Cough and sneeze into a tissue and throw it away. Clean, high-touch surfaces frequently. Some examples include doorknobs, credit and debit cards, cell phones, keyboard and mouse devices, and toilet handles. Stay home if you're feeling ill. If you have any flu-like symptoms, avoid contact with the public. Avoid sharing personal items in spaces with those close to you. Seek medical care early if you're feeling sick. Symptoms of the coronavirus can include fever, coughing, and shortness of breath. Seek medical care if you develop these symptoms or if you've been traveling or have been in close contact with a person who has traveled from an area with an ongoing spread of COVID-19. We encourage you to visit hcflgov.net/staysafe for up-to-date information and tips.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the HART Board Meeting of December 7th, 2020. The meeting format today is hybrid. We have a quorum physically present at the county center, and the rest of the board members are participating virtually. Board members, again, we have a lengthy agenda with an important action item coming. It's in your agenda for item 10, the General Counsel's report, and that is a discussion of a contract with our next CEO. Because Ms. LeGrand has actually joined us, come from Atlanta to join us physically this morning, I'm going to ask to move that agenda item up, and that will also assure we have a physical quorum for that discussion, and then she won't have to sit through the rest of our agenda items. So we will do that before the item number 6, the rest of the action items after number 5, the employee recognitions. But even so, please keep me posted about whether we're in danger of losing a quorum for the rest of those action items. So we might rearrange those. All right, and with that, I will call the meeting to order and have a pledge of allegiance. If you are not in a room with a flag, you will be able to see an image of a flag soon on your screens, and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. There we go. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated, and staff will take attendance. Ms. Arthur. Ms. Arthur, we'll do the roll call.
Can you hear me, Chair?
Now we can.
Okay, awesome. Directors Castor and Hudson have indicated that they are present. Director Johnson?
Here.
Director Frazier?
Here.
Director Myers?
Here.
Director Schisler?
Here.
Director Williams?
Here.
Director Kemp?
Here.
Director Knight?
Here.
Director McLean?
Here.
Director Overman?
Here.
Chair Smith?
Here.
Director Vieira?
Here.
You do have quorum, ma'am.
And at this time, our general counsel, I'm not sure if it's David Smith or Julie Mandel today who will read the rules into the record for participation in the hybrid meeting.
Yes.
Okay. Essentially, I do not have a copy of the rules that we read last time, but the sum of it is this. Because we have a hybrid meeting, participation by the public is going to occur electronically. They're not going to be here in person. And what we're going to do is we'll have an opportunity for the public to speak as is required by statute. The public will be recognized on the monitor, and anyone who wanted to speak should have identified themselves to Ms. Danielle previously so we could get you on the list and have you recognized. You can send the information to the HART website in order to try to get on the speaking platform today if you wish. Do we have anyone signed up? We do. And who do we have signed up today?
Online?
A lot of feedback there.
Laptop's audio is turned on. Turn off the audio on your laptops, please. If not, you will continue to hear that feedback. All of your audio will come through the speakers.
For the public comment.
Are they defaulted to the audio being off?
Mine's off, isn't it?
You could also adjust your volume all the way off on your laptop or your phone.
Okay, I'm not sure. I thought I was told you're not ready for public comments, or are you?
I apologize. We are not ready for public comment at this time.
Okay.
Mr. Smith, are you finished with the reading of the rules?
Yes, ma'am.
And our next agenda item then will be approval of the minutes from our November 2nd board meeting. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved. Commissioner Kemp?
Second? Is there a second?
Second, Director McLean.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Kemp, a second by Director McLean. If there's not any discussion, seeing none, Ms. Arthur, please take a roll call vote.
Yes, ma'am. Director Castor?
Yes.
Director Frazier?
Yes.
Director Hudson?
Yes.
Director Johnson?
Yes.
Director Knight?
Yes.
Director Myers?
Yes.
Director Schisler?
Yes.
Director Williams?
Yes.
Director Kemp?
Yes.
Director McLean?
Yes.
Director Overman?
Yes.
Chair Smith?
Yes.
Director Vieira? Director Vieira? Motion passes unanimously. Director Vieira was absent at vote.
Thank you. I know he was with us this morning right before the meeting, so I think he'll probably be back. And now we're ready for public input from our caller. And I think we're done with the rules there, so let's move forward with the public comment we have on the line.
Marion, can you hear me?
Yes, okay, I'm ready. So my name is Marion Guizdala. I'm an advocate with the National Federation of the Blind of Florida. And I'm calling to comment on the Flamingo Pass. I'm pretty sure that HART, if you were to build a building, would hire an architect who knows that if he builds steps into the architecture of the building must include a ramp or an elevator or some other means for people who cannot climb steps in order to access the building. Likewise, HART would not purchase a vehicle in which people who use wheelchairs did not have access to the building. The Flamingo Pass presents a problem here in that I believe that if HART rolls it out, they're going to intentionally and knowingly discriminate against people with disabilities. And here's the reason why. Those of us who are patrons of HART Plus have the privilege of using a discounted fare in order to encourage us to ride the fixed route system, which is far cheaper than using paratransit. So if we were to use the Flamingo Pass, there's two ways to use it. One is with an app and one is with a physical card. Those of us who have disabilities have to purchase the physical card and use the physical card because the developer of your app has not figured out a way to program into it a discounted fare. So we either have to buy a physical card or pay full fare using the app. And I believe that is an unequal benefit. I believe that's in violation of the Americans with Disabilities Act, and I would encourage the HART Board of Directors to put a hold on this project until such time as the developer can figure out how to make it compliant with the Americans with Disabilities Act. And that's my comment. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is that all the comment we have for today?
Yes, that is all the public comment that we have for today.
And let me thank that first gentleman for coming this morning to bring that concern forward. We certainly, I know I speak for the entire board and the agency when I say we certainly would never knowingly discriminate against people with disabilities, and we take we go to great lengths to make sure that we accommodate people with all a full range of abilities and disabilities. And so we will be taking up the Flamingo Fair card today, and hope that our staff can address that concern, and if not, we will address it. All right. Now, on November 17, the County Commission confirmed the following 4 appointments to the HART Board of Directors. Commissioner Kemp, Commissioner Overman, and myself will continue to serve on the HART Board of Directors for another 1-year term representing the Hillsborough County Commission. Commissioner Gwen Myers will also be joining the HART Board of Directors as an elected representative of Hillsborough County. So I know you'll all join me in welcoming Commissioner Gwen Myers to the HART Board of Directors. You can find her short bio in your packet under Section 4, but I will fill you in just briefly. Commissioner Gwen Myers is a native and lifelong resident of Hillsborough County. She was elected to the Hillsborough County Board of County Commissioners in November. She has long been an advocate for improving transportation, affordable housing, and healthcare in the county. She is planning to help lead the county through the COVID-19 crisis. Commissioner Myers uses the theme, it's about the people. She worked in Hillsborough County government for 25 years, from 1988 through 2013, in the departments of Housing and Community Development and Health and Social Services. Commissioner Myers has a bachelor's degree in business administration and accounting from Florida A&M University. She is married to Randolph T. Myers Sr. and has 2 adult stepchildren. And I know I speak for all of us when I say we couldn't be happier to have Commissioner Myers joining us on the HART board. Commissioner Myers, do you have a few words to say today?
Yes, and I say thank you, and I look forward to working with each one of you.
Thank you. And if you have not yet taken a orientation tour, I did when I joined this board, and it was very enlightening. I know you can arrange with Lena Pettit to take a tour of the facilities, and if you haven't yet, you will, well, I learned a lot and very much enjoyed it, meeting the staff and seeing a lot of the behind the scenes going on of HART. And that brings us to item number 5, employee recognitions. Mr. Scott Drainville, Deputy Chief of Maintenance and Facilities, and Ivan Maldonado, Director of Transportation, will present the awards. So you all are recognized.
Madam Chair, members of the board, good morning. Scott Drainville, Deputy Chief of Maintenance and Facilities. Let's start off with the Maintenance Employee of the Month for July of 2020, Kevin Woodard. Kevin is a route maintenance attendant and has been with HART since September of 2014. Kevin is extremely dedicated to keeping HART's routes and stops well maintained. Anytime you see Kevin in the field, no matter what the conditions, he's out of his vehicle giving 100%. Thank you, Kevin. The Maintenance Employee of the Month for August 2020, Philip Beaton. Philip is a fleet maintenance custodian and has been with HART since February of 2008. His ability to switch from custodial duties to vehicle servicing has made him an indispensable asset to the service line. Thank you, Philip. And for Maintenance Employee of the Month for September 2020, Steve Rapuzzi. Steve is a route maintenance attendant and has been with HART since September of 2002. He played a major role in preparing and manicuring the transitway for the autonomous vehicle event. Thank you, Steve. We congratulate all three of these maintenance employees for their outstanding performance, professionalism, and dedication to HART and the community. That concludes the maintenance.
Commissioner, I believe you're muted.
Thank you. Does that bring us to Mr. Maldonado?
Yes.
Directors, it is with great pleasure that I recognize the operators and members of the operation team that are recognized today. For Operator of the Month of July, we're recognizing Cosme Garcia. Garcia became a HART operator on February 10th, 1986, just 7 years after HART was created. Cosme has always had a smile on his face and a kind word. Looking towards retirement in the next few years is a fact that his presence will be missed, and the loss of so much knowledge will leave a void in our operator's rank. Congratulations, Cosme. Our next operator for August 2020 is Majed Botros. Operator Botros was hired on February 8, 2016, and has been a vivid example of professionalism ever since he came to HART. He has competed in 2 HART rodeos, finishing second place in 2018 and third place in 2020. He loves driving the bus and also enjoys spending time at the beach with his little boy. Congratulations, Majed. Our next operator of the month of September 2020 is Francisco Torres. Operator Torres was hired on October 2013, and he enjoys providing a service to the public while being able to be outdoors much of the time. He's always a smiling presence in the operations department. Married 23 years. Francisco and his wife have 3 children. Congratulations, Francisco. For Teamster of the Quarter is Transit Supervisor Hugh Matei. Supervisor Matei was hired on June 30, 2003. His great attitude carries over to his position as a mentor and counselor for all HART operators. He said that he gets great satisfaction out of making our operators and patrons happy. Hughes has an associate degree in business management and a bachelor degree in biblical science. He and his wife have 3 children. Congratulations, Matei. For the non-bargaining employee of the quarter, or the fourth quarter 2020, David Kelsey. Manager of Transit Supervision, David Kelsey, has really impressed operations management with his willingness and ability to perform both the function of manager of transit supervision and the duties of manager of the Operations Control Center since the position became vacant. Throwing the chaos of the pandemic into the mix has allowed David to highlight his capability of continuing to ensure that services was available to HART patrons, even when HART was down 70 or more operators due to COVID. Dave worked with OCC to ensure that our services were staffed and ready. Congratulations, David. And for the Operator of the Year, Michael Burnett. Operator Michael Burnett was nominated this year as the HART Operator of the Year among all recipients of the Operator of the Month Award for fiscal year 2020. Michael also became a member of the Million Mile Club in 2020. He is a certified operator instructor, sharing his knowledge with new bus trainees and those returned from extended absences. In addition, Michael is a cross-trained streetcar motorman and has spent many hours this year assisting streetcar managed motorman shortages. He has received notice from management taking new motormen under his wing to guide them
and help them adjust to the challenges of working in transit. Again, it is with great pressure that I recognize the operators, motormen, and Teamster of the quarter. Thank you so much.
Stellar employees in allowing us to spend a few moments recognizing their service. We all have a lot to be proud of in these maintenance employees and operators, particularly during these trying times. These are essential workers in the truest sense of the word, and HART heroes as well. And we all have a lot to be proud of here. And I'm very grateful to the service of these employees and the opportunity to recognize them, however briefly, in our packed agenda here. So thank you. And at this time, as I said in the beginning, I think it would be best if we could move ahead to item number 10. Is Mrs. LeGrand with us here? Can staff let me know? Is Ms. LeGrand present yet in the room?
Yes, Madam Chair, can you hear us?
Yes.
Yes, she is present.
Thank you, Ms. LeGrand, for traveling here to be with us today while we go over these items. Very much appreciated. And anyway, we'll move on to item 10, General Counsel's report. And let's go ahead and take item 10B, the Chief Executive Officer recruitment update, so that we can let Ms. LeGrand get back to her day.
Okay. As you heard, Ms. LeGrand is here, but before she speaks, what I would like to do is provide you a little background on what has transpired. We asked Lena to send to you an updated summary of the status of negotiations, which she did on Friday afternoon. In a minute, I will walk you through that to explain, clarify, and inform the public. But first, a clarification on the initial proposal and why it was, for example, outside the range. As is often the case, there was a miscommunication. The board approved a range of $200,000 to $250,000 and retained GovHR as the search firm. On the solicitation the GovHR circulated, it said $200,000 to $250,000 had a plus or minus sign, DOQ. DOQ means dependent upon qualifications. I'm not sure whether that was staff phraseology or GovHR phraseology, but the staff knew the range was $200,000 to $250,000. Apparently GovHR thought it was subject to change dependent upon qualifications. You can see where you can read that language both ways. Either it depends where you fall within the range, or there's possible flexibility to the range depending upon the qualifications. So that's how GovHR and apparently several of the candidates read it. And so her proposal was made in good faith based upon the latter interpretation. There was no effort to act in derogation of the board's previous decision. By the way, I've had the opportunity to work with Ms. LeGrand the last several days. She has been delightful to work with. She's bright, pleasant, and clear. She's very professional and thorough in her approach. Just my opinion, I think she'd make an excellent CEO. She indicated that her current proposal is materially less than what she currently makes, entirely as a package. That is, the proposal as in its entirety is less than she makes in her current situation. Her numbers and proposals are an effort to meet her family obligations while still being able to accept the challenge of leading HART. And it's a challenge which she has expressed great interest in undertaking. She's enthusiastic about the prospect. By way of information, she has a family of 6. 3 of her children are in college. All of us who have had college-age children understand the nature of those financial commitments. Another factor in the decision to move here is that her husband will have to quit his job in Atlanta and find a new job here. These are all issues that add economic uncertainty to a relocation. So her proposal, especially the requested triggered increase, was based in an effort to provide a hedge on the uncertainty associated with the duration of her reduction of revenue. That said, let's look at the proposal and go through it in its specifics, and then we'll hear from Ms. LeGrand with any additional qualifications or clarifications. Essentially, what we sent to you on Friday starts with a base salary of $250. That is within the range, albeit the top of the range. But it is within the range, and she did that because she understood the board had previously indicated that. The second aspect of the proposal was that there'd be an increase of 15% to the base salary when one of 3 events occur. One is the ridership returns to pre-COVID-19 levels. 2 is the surtax money becomes available, or 3, new funding becomes available. The analysis that motivated this offer was if it could be proffered in a manner that was easier for HART to manage, i.e. the revenue would be available for the increased compensation, it would be less of an impact on HART itself. So I think the thought process was it would allow her to move closer to her compensation level as it exists now, while also not straining the resources of HART, which, as we all know, are rather significantly strained. The next aspect was a deferred compensation contribution of 18%. Currently, we have a 401A that is specially identified for certain executives, and it is a 15% deferred comp. But what actually happens is anyone who's hired by HART also goes into FRS, the Florida Retirement System. And according to Ms. Stiglitz, our CFO, that's a mandatory requirement. The FRS is literally also a 401A. And what happens on the FRS is the employee puts in, I believe the number is 3%. It's in my notes that I gave you. And the employer, HART, puts in 4.67%. That comes out to a number percentage-wise that's beyond the 18%. So I don't see this as an issue in terms of meeting that requirement. And by way of explanation, the problem is that apparently the IRS, the Internal Revenue Service, aggregates 401A plans, and they have a cap on what you can put away for those types of plans. It's because it's generally provided to the more highly compensated. They regulate it, and literally she will not be able to get everything, FRS and 18%. She'll really be getting like 15.53% from the 401A that is adopted by HART, and the rest of it will come from the FRS system. So I don't see that as an issue monetarily. The next issue is relocation expenses. And this issue really more pertains to flexibility. She's looking for a dollar amount up to $50,000 to include interim housing and to include all of the moving expenses associated with moving a family of 6 from Atlanta to Tampa. Now you might wonder, well, she's got college kids, they won't be moving with her. Well, college kids these days are attending college at home. So she has to make an arrangement to move a significantly sized family from Atlanta to Tampa. And when you have 3 college-age children, they each have to have their own bedroom, and you've got another child, presumably will have to have, you're looking for a much larger home accommodation. So rather than tie anything to a fixed amount for temporary housing and a fixed amount for moving, the request was we just have a cap amount and that it is applied to all of these sorts of expenses, including airfare to and from Tampa, making arrangements for jobs, husband interviewing possibly for a new job, et cetera. And there's a precedent for this. And looking back at a contract I was not aware of, David Armijo negotiated a contract in 2007, and I think I mentioned it in the summary. He received in 2007 a $48,000 lump sum allocation, allocated a little bit differently, but both basically in the same fashion that Ms. LeGrand is looking for, which is some flexibility to address issues as they arise over the period, the interim. It could be 6 months, it could be longer. Particularly with COVID, it's difficult to imagine exactly what might happen. So the request for a lump sum with receipts and invoices and everything documenting the expenditures, and a requirement to make an effort to get the lowest possible price, which is what all HART employees must do when they're spending HART dollars. That revenue aspect seems to be, well, certainly is akin to what Mr. David Armijo received in 2007. I mentioned in the memo, there's another issue the board could look at if they wanted to provide a signing bonus, which would be unallocated and unaccountable, but it would just be allow her to have a little more flexibility, like a $5,000 signing bonus or something of that nature. I'm just bringing it up for point of information, that's also a possibility that you have here. The severance requirement is a matter governed by state statute, meaning when you leave public employment, you cannot get greater than 20 weeks compensation. That's it. We've historically provided that to the CEOs, and her request is reasonable, but it can't be used. That is the limited dollar amount. It can be used for whatever she wants to use it for. Living expenses, COBRA, et cetera. We cannot, quote, have a buyout of a contract, only can pay 20 weeks. I say only, 20 weeks of severance is not a small number, depending upon the compensation level. But that is, again, as I see it, a non-issue because we're limited by state statute as to what we can do. Also, if she's terminated, if she were to, when she leaves, if she leaves, we hope not, she gets the same payments that accrue for all HART employees. And these are pursuant to the policies that this board has enacted. There's accrued sick leave, there's vacation days, there's things of that nature, and it's exactly what all employees get. The last item I put in the summary was the possibility of the use of a vehicle 24/7 or possibility of a car allowance. Now, David Armijo, again, in his contract in 2007, had this. And as I indicated in the summary, he was provided, it provided for a car allowance of $285 biweekly. That was in 2007. I would think if the board's inclined to do that, at least some minor adjustment to that number might be considered. And why would you want a car allowance? Well, they're a one-car family. It's unfortunately for the Tampa area, it's a little easier to get around in Atlanta using transit than it is to get around in Tampa. That's one of our challenges, one of the challenges we hope that Ms. LeGrand will help us solve. So that's the summary of the issues. And so that's what we're really looking at. The base salary within the range, the deferred comp that's within the same range we've provided before when we take into account FRS. Relocation expenses with a cap amount, which has been provided to David Armijo. Severance payment, which is statutory. And the same payments to the that other employees get when they leave. So the only two variables are the car allowance, which David Armijo got, but the last person did not, to my knowledge. Certainly Ben Limmer did not. And the other issue is the trigger on the increase. So that is a summary. I think we need to have Ms. LeGrand provide an opportunity to provide any additional detail or clarification or correct anything I got wrong.
Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to be here again. As Mr. Smith mentioned, we did have a great conversation, and it even got me more energized. Having a holding pattern from November 2nd to December 2nd, I think is when we actually spoke. A whole month of not really engaging with you directly gave some angst, but now I'm back engaged and I feel very excited about the opportunity and have been following the recent challenges as well as, what has been on the plate before I even started this process. I would like to say that the report is accurate to our conversation as well as the understanding when I accepted the opportunity to go after this position. It was presented that the salary range would be over $250,000, and I specifically, when I spoke with the recruiter, asked what did the plus or minus DLQ mean, and they said it meant that HART would be willing to go above $250,000 depending on qualifications. And my response was I would be looking for a salary over $250,000 because I'm over that right now. That being said, I also understand that there sometimes are some errors in how things are presented, and I am still committed to working with HART to transform the organization during this time. So that being said, I came up with some calculations that would get me back to my original ask, which was $288,000, and recognizing if we could, have an agreement that if certain terms were met, that the board would be comfortable with giving me the 15% increase, which would get me to that original ask, which was the 288. As I shared with Mr. Smith, is that, in doing the calculation and recognizing, I want to take a step back and recognize that I am not by any stretch of the imagination expecting to be compensated the way I'm being currently compensated on the private sector. I was willing and I was well aware that I would be taking a reduction in salary, but I was committed to doing that. But again, I thought that I can make the reduction and still meet my financial obligations and not be, I would say, overly stressed on how things will work out. And again, understanding that there was that flexibility with this opportunity is why I threw my name in the hat. But being here, I want to stay here. I want to continue along this path. And that's why I was asking for the 15% when folks feel comfortable that we can financially make that obligation and commitment to the salary increase. Last thing I'll say is that, having a contract for 3 years plus two one-year extensions means that I'm actually agreeing to terms that say that my salary will pretty much remain the same for the next 3 years. So I just want you to be aware that when I've done these calculations, I've taken into consideration that this has to last me for a 3-year period or up to 5-year period, depending on how our negotiations go for the plus or minus 2 additional years. So I'd just like you to take that into consideration. It's not a 1-year thing. It's really, I'm looking at a 5-year salary of $288 if everything goes according to how we see with the ridership coming back as well as getting additional funding. As it relates to the car allowance, I know it's kind of awkward, but we do have 4 children. Only one of our children has a driver's license, and he's the 18-year-old, which is bizarre. But the girls who are older, they don't have a driver's license. We do live in the city of Atlanta, and we live in town. So they have access to transit, and they walk, and they use scooters and other modes of transportation. So we downsized a couple of years ago. We just have 1 vehicle. And it's my preference to not have to buy another vehicle. I do believe in transit. Even when I was in New Orleans for the 3.5 years, I did not have a vehicle there either. I was able to walk to work and use transit, and I'm looking forward to doing something similar here. But that being said, I do recognize that the county is huge. When I came for the interview, I did drive it, and it is not going to be realistic for me to be able to really engage with the community in the way I feel I have to engage and only be reliant on transit, at least today. The objective would be to get to a point where I could be relying on transit. There was also a conversation about using a HART vehicle. I do recognize that you have a large fleet. My concern there with talking to Mr. Smith is some of the liability associated with using a HART vehicle outside of the normal business hours. So if I'm at a grocery store and someone sees a HART vehicle at the grocery store, if I'm, at a department store, the mall, or whatever it is, what we don't want is to have something on the headlines in the paper, HART vehicle at the mall at 9 p.m., what's going on. So through that conversation, it did make sense when we had the discussion that a car allowance may be able to provide the same type of access to the community without the liability associated with the vehicle. That being said, I would say that those are the only issues that I wanted to share a little bit with you guys, and just to, give you a little sense of me. Again, I'm not looking to be rich. I know these are big numbers. And to a lot of people in our community, this sounds like, rich people money. And I get that, and I understand that, and I'm sensitive to that as well. But again, we also have to understand that there needs to be a recognition that people have to be paid what they're worth, and, that we are going to work together, not only for me, but for those in the community to have access to better opportunities so they can be paid also in a way that is conducive to them having the lifestyle that they wish to have. So as I will be working here tirelessly to advocate for our community, our internal community and external community, I have to also advocate for myself. So I'm hoping that you can see this as your first opportunity of how diligent I will be in advocating for, our community and for HART as a brand, as my example of advocating for myself. So with that, I thank you again for the opportunity to be here today and present.
Thank you, Ms. LeGrand, and thanks again for coming all the way from Atlanta to join us today so we could have a really productive conversation. It's great to see you. I've got a few directors in the queue to speak. Commissioner Overman, I believe your hand was up first.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate that. And thank you, Ms. LeGrand, for being here and helping us understand the passion you have for the new opportunity. You may or may not have seen it because you've just got to town, but Tampa Bay Business Journal sees you as one of the 25 people to watch in 2021. So we're running to make sure that we can have you be watched. That being said, I also acknowledge that the increase that you're asking as a way of compromise based on the base salary may take a couple of years to occur. Ridership with COVID is going to be slow to grow. So I'm looking forward to your goals on having that happen. That benefits the entire community in a great way. We have no, idea where we're going with the surtax money as it stands right now. And even if we do get an opinion soon, it may take a while to negotiate how those funds are become available, should they do so. And then if that is not the case, then it may be 2022 before we have a referendum to be able to generate additional resources towards significant resources towards funding. So the only question I have, while I understand your desire to show performance as a way of proving not only your skill sets, but your confidence and your passion for this, is more of a question for Cindy Stiglich. We have previously established a budget, and under the circumstances, I'm not sure based on what was understood by GovHR and where we stand as of now. I'd love to get Ms. Stiglich's opinion on under this plan or under this proposal, what modifications are workable in order to be able to accomplish meeting Ms. LeGrand's needs.
Thank you. Cindy Stiglich, Interim CFO for HART. Currently in the budget, in the FY21 budget, we have a fully allocated budget of about $330,000. That would have been inclusive of salaries, any type of health benefits, as well as the 401A contribution. So under the current request, and again, this would be a first year, and I wasn't prepared to give the exact number, but under the current request with the $50,000 stipend and not necessarily inclusive of the car allowance, but we're looking at with a 23% 401A contribution of that's about 310 in and of itself. Then on top of that would be medical, the $50,000 request for relocation and temporary housing, and then on top of that, if you wanted to add the car allowance. So it is over capacity in our budget.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Do you have a range that you're anticipating if we were to come to an agreement today?
One of the original calculations was done based on a right in the middle of the range between 210 and 250. At 230, with a 10% additional 401A contribution over and above the regular FRS contribution that we have to make on her behalf, that would have put us right at budget. That did not include relocation, that did not include a housing allowance, that did not include a car stipend.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I'll look forward to hearing from the other board members.
Thank you. Director Hudson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think in the spirit of trying to focus this discussion and these questions and not to preempt it, but I want to put out a motion. And the motion would be to direct staff to move forward with negotiating a contract with Ms. LeGrand based on the terms laid out in the email from David and that we just heard, with two changes. The first would be to benchmark the car allowance to what we have given prior CEOs, subject to, I think, inflation increases, I think is reasonable. And two, on the automatic salary increase, to not make those automatic, but to make the occurrence of any of those three conditions a trigger for an interim performance review based on the ordinary course performance review metrics that we have, and that if those are met, the salary could go up to 15%. I don't believe we can be in a position of automatically granting compensation increases based on future events, but any of those future events certainly merits a conversation about it. So that's my motion.
Second, this is Commissioner Kemp.
Thank you. We have a motion by Director Hudson, second by Commissioner Kemp. Director Hudson, are you finished with your comments?
Yeah, and the hope is everyone can still ask their questions and discuss. I just wanted to give us a little bit of direction. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Kemp, you're recognized.
Thank you. I appreciate that direction. It was kind of where I was going with some of this as well. I just had a few points of clarification and maybe as much for the public, and something that was said also confused me a little. In terms of the relocation expenses, I think I've read previously, but I didn't hear it. I don't believe I heard it in the discussion this morning. And we're talking about $50,000 that all that will have to be specifically accounted for. Is that true, Mr. Smith? It's not just $50,000 and spend it down, but specifically accounted for in terms of real expenses being made.
I'm sorry, did you hear me? I said that is correct.
No, I didn't hear you. Now I do. Thank you. The second question I have is something was just said that confused me from what I understood. Could be me. So the $50,000 relocation expenses also included a housing allowance. Is that correct?
Yes, it did include a housing allowance. It's all encompassing.
Right. So those aren't two separate concerns. So with that and with the clarifications, and I really thank you, Mr. Smith, for outlining everything, and Ms. LeGrand for coming and really sharing this. I think it's good for us to understand and hear and understand where the misunderstanding occurred. And I think with all that being clarified for me, I'm very much in support of the motion and moving forward on what was outlined. Thank you.
Was your hand up?
Madam Chair, yes, it was, but Director Hudson and Commissioner Kemp just clarified the questions I had also. I will make one statement though, and that is, and I don't want to sound heartless here, but as we look at compensation, salary, and the additional compensations in there, let's make sure we're basing it on capabilities and the credentials that individual brings with them. I heard a lot of mention on family size, financial responsibilities. We hire and we pay based on capabilities we acquire, not based on family size and financial responsibility of that individual family. While I appreciate all those, we do really have to look at the qualifications Ms. LeGrand brings, which are substantial, I would agree. But I just want the board members to be cognizant that that's what we're doing. We're looking at credentials here. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And I see no other discussion. Let me just clarify that the motion was to bring back the contract in at our next meeting in January with these, with these little adjustments, correct?
To speak.
Sorry?
You'll show, sir, I'd like to speak. I can't rate, my hand won't go up on the screen.
just sing out. Mr. Schisler, you're recognized.
Thank you. Welcome, Ms. LeGrand. Thank you for communicating, and David, for Mr. Smith, for your information. It was much better the second time around. However, I still have a couple of concerns. Again, as was stated previously by Director McLean, we're paying for qualifications and ability, then we really only have a piece of paper right now. And again, nothing against Ms. LeGrand. I'm sure they're good, but we pay based upon performance and qualifications, not family issues. I do have a concern with the triggers. The volume increase is a minimum revenue generator to the overall organization. The sales tax resolution is essentially all spoken for in many different capacities. Particularly one is, if I remember correctly, there's a huge salary adjustment that needs to be made to our overall staff, the employee contracts, the union contracts that we need to be mindful of. And other revenue sources, I hope this is not something that's expected to be done in the next 6 months to a year. It could take quite a while to develop the additional revenue sources. Even if it's a legislative thing, you're looking next year at the very minimum before it ever begins. I'm concerned with encumbering this budget. We've already stretched this budget to paper thin, as based upon what Ms. Stiglitz has said that has been allocated for it. I'm all in favor of bringing Ms. LeGrand on, but I hate to throw out the baby in the bathwater just to do everything we can to accomplish this. I have a problem with the trigger. I think that we're writing checks that we don't know if we're going to be able to cash, and again, I'll leave it at that. The signing bonus, I don't think that is the signing bonus part of the resolution, or is that off the table? Mr. Smith?
That was not in my motion that there be.
Okay, so that's not part of it. Okay,
Correct.
Good. And the vehicle allowance, maybe on a temporary basis, but again, we're writing checks that we got to cash and cover, and it's tough. So I'll wait to hear other people's opinions, but I'm a little concerned with the financial impact that we're creating for ourselves going forward. I'll stop there.
And I'm going to ask everybody who is present to keep your mask on even when you're speaking. That is the rules within County Center. And as our COVID begins really spiking, it's the speaking that emits what the mask is supposed to be containing. So I'm going to ask everybody to keep your masks on constantly while we're present in County Center. A point of clarification, as I understand the motion, it is that these triggers do not automatically kick in an increase. What they do is generate an inflection point for a board consideration of those salary increases at that time. So just a point of clarification on what that motion was. So it's not exactly writing checks we cannot cash. It's beginning opening up the discussion. Mr. Hudson, you're not next in the queue, but I just would like to ask you quickly if you would confirm that is how your motion is. And then I'll get back to you.
That is correct. That the occurrence of any of those three events should trigger an interim performance review where Ms. LeGrand would be evaluated based on the existing annual performance review criteria. And that a base salary increase of an amount in the board's discretion would be on the table then. my motion is not that there is an automatic salary increase at all. That is entirely discretionary based on the board, but that any of these three events are significant, particularly the sales tax increase, and merit reconsideration.
And I'll come back to you in the order of the queue here, but next is Director Frazier.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to comment that one, I think that Director Hudson's motion is well thought out and well received, at least by me. I think it's a good compromise between what Ms. LeGrand is requesting and what we as the board can do, given being stewards of the money. I did not take her comments about her family as wanting us to base her salary on those particular things. I think she's basing her salary request on all of the experience that she's bringing, including what she's developed in the private sector that's paid her so well, and how she's been compensated. I think she was discussing her family just to let us know why it's difficult for her to take such a pay cut, yet she's here regardless, because she's that interested in the job. I think with the triggers, it's a great compromise, Director Hudson's motion, because it allows us to reevaluate at that time when I think Council Smith had said it in his email that those triggers would come with them, perhaps increased duties, increased hardships, or things that we're reconsidering here anyways. And so it would be a reasonable time to readdress whether we're able to increase her salary as she's requested. It's not a commitment to a certain amount, so I don't think we are putting ourselves in a position that we're straining the budget any further than it would be. It's just a commitment to Ms. LeGrand that we would reconsider whether we can at that time increase the salary, and with it would come an interim performance review. So I think it's a great compromise in terms of what we can do here today.
Commissioner Myers, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I thank General Counsel David Smith for his comments and Ms. LeGrand for sharing your comments. But based on the information that was advertised on the DOQ, where she felt that she had the experience based on that to apply for the position and would want to have her salary increase to what she's making today, I don't think we need to consider Ms. LeGrand, because she stated that her family size, but she's also considering what she's making based on her income today. And I do agree with Mr. Tyler, Director Tyler, in his comments, but I think she also wants the salary that she's asking for today, and that's what I would support.
Director Johnson, you're next.
I wanted to first thank Ms. LeGrand for coming up here, or down here, I guess, to be able to talk about it. I think, it shows a lot that you are willing to be able to work with us on this, and I know I appreciate that. I do want to go back to Councilman Schisler's comments regarding some of the budget concerns later on down the road. And, that's something that is playing in the back of my head right now. It's certainly not going to be something that is that's going to make me vote no on the motion. I think it's actually a very good compromise by Director Hudson. One quick question that I had for our general counsel, when it comes to that new funding trigger, could that be anything from grant funding, any other sources of non-recurring funding, or would it be something we could put to where it's like some kind of recurring revenue, to where that would be some kind of a trigger? Only because I just don't want it to be where any grant or any dollars that Ms. LeGrand would be working on, from a non-recurring standpoint, be what would trigger it, and we're having to go and make a decision based off of one-time dollars.
That's a good question, and that's exactly the way I was reading it. The first two variables are precise. You know what your ridership is, you know what pre-pandemic was, and how you can obtain that. You know if you're going to get the surtax money, whether it's the Supreme Court or whether it's passed again in 2022. What a new funding source is unclear, but the key word I see here is available. So if you get a grant from the Federal Department of Transportation and it's specifically to buy electric buses, you don't have available funding from that source. So it has to be a source of funds that's available to be spent on compensation or basically associated pay. And I believe that's how she means it.
Okay, perfect. Then as long as we're going to kind of keep working on the understanding that it would be for available funds, or at least something to where a trigger isn't going to be isn't going to come into effect for any type of a positive source of revenue. While I know Ms. LeGrand is going to be working as hard as she can to be able to do any kind of revenue, either non-recurring or recurring. That'd be an important thing that I would want to be able to consider. Thank you, Madam Chair.
And that can be clarified in the contract that comes back to us. Good points. Councilman Vieira, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. I wanted to clarify the issue on Director Hudson's motion with regards to a trigger. That's been subsequently clarified, and I'm thankful for that. I was a strong supporter of Ms. LeGrand during the process when we finally interviewed people and were able to get everybody before us. And I think that she's going to do a stellar job. I agree with Commissioner Overman in her idea that we want to make sure that her listing on the Tampa Bay Business Journal becomes a reality for us, and that's up to us here today. The concerns with regards to money, though the funds sought through the triggers may be a very tiny percentage of the budget, I think that ultimately it's also a message sent if we include it as a trigger that I do not think sends the right message. And I think that Director Hudson's compromise of having it merely set up as consideration, something for our consideration, is something that I support. That's a very, very good compromise. We have high aspirations here at HART. Even if, God forbid, the All for Transportation money is taken away by the Florida Supreme Court, we have we're certainly taking our hits with COVID, taking our hits potentially with AFT, but we're going to be back if that gets taken away in 2022. And I think one of the signs that we as a board are enthusiastic and optimistic is Ms. LeGrand and putting her forth in that regard. So I also wanted to salute Director Hudson for the compromise. A relatively new board member shows his wonderful legal wisdom. So thank you for that, sir. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And Mayor Castor, you're recognized.
Madam Chair, I don't want to rehash everything, agree with it. Thank you so much, Ms. LeGrand, for coming down. And I personally, as probably speaking for the other board members, look forward to growing our agency with you. The only thing that, and agree with Commissioner Hudson's motion, but what I would like to ask is if you are prepared to work at that $250 salary, if that is agreed upon, because we don't know what the future holds. And if these triggers don't occur in the way that we anticipate that they will, then we all have to be good stewards of the tax dollars and ensure that we are spending HART's money wisely. So I just want to make sure that I don't want to start out on a bad foot in our relationship, you with the board and with HART as an organization. So I guess more of a statement than a question.
May I respond or?
Sure.
Okay, so.
Madam Chair?
That was a question for Ms. LeGrand, I believe, right?
Okay,
If
okay.
she'd like to respond, you're recognized, Ms. LeGrand.
Okay, thank you. And thank you, Mayor Castor. And yes, I have spoken with Councilor Smith, and I'm comfortable with the $250 as well as the $50,000 relocation bucket, which allows me that additional flexibility. And I just wanted to state that I recognize that this approach, even the approach I mentioned with the trigger of 15%, but even getting to that point, there is no guarantee that that's going to happen within the next 3 years. There's a real possibility that it might not happen within the next 5 years. But what I did want was at least to have something in writing and to be fully, candid here. reading a job description that made me think that there were available dollars above 250, and that was in writing, to get to this point, which I'm super excited that I've gotten to this point, to even have this conversation with you. But it would not be in my best interest to take someone's word that once these situations or these triggers occur, we'll talk to you again. It's important that that is documented in the contract. Now, I know I did ask specifically for the 15% to be there, but some of the onus on that was my understanding that in the CBA, the collective bargaining agreement, there's also similar language that if these dollars become available, that they will also get a specific increase. So I was just trying to be consistent with the language that's currently in place for the employees as the leader of the organization. But again, I do understand compromise, and I'm sure we'll find a way to have some, I would say, consistency between what is expected for me as those triggers, as well as what has already been documented for staff associated with those same triggers. So thank you.
Madam Chairwoman, if I could. Chairman Smith, this is
Yeah.
add a couple of qualifications and clarifications to the mayor's question. There is, of course, an annual evaluation anyway, in which the same parameters that Mr. Hudson has in his motion are used to evaluate the performance of the CEO. So there is that annual review no matter what, and it's usually anywhere from 0 to 10%. So there's a certain amount of flexibility built into the contract as you've approved them in the past. So I just wanted to make sure y'all were clear on that, and I think that was the only clarification that was necessary.
So much to Ms. LeGrand for being willing to have these discussions in a public forum. It is an interesting way to do business, but we are covered by the sunshine, and I really appreciate your frankness and your willingness to discuss all this in the open with a very large, diverse board with a wide range of perspectives. It's very much appreciated. I have one more director, Director Williams, and if everybody would take their hands down after you've spoken, that'll be helpful. So Director Williams, you're recognized.
Madam Chair, I'll make this quick. Mr. Smith, thank you so much for providing the detailed information in advance. I thought it was very thorough and gave us an opportunity to review and think about some of the questions. And Ms. LeGrand, thank you for visiting and clarifying and giving us even more transparency on your expectations. And I'd just like to close with the final statement from me on performance and transparency will be what we need and what we look for as we move forward in HART. And I appreciate your approach. I appreciate your upfront advocacy for yourself, and I look forward to supporting you as you do if the contract is aligned and is approved. I look forward to seeing more of that if you have the opportunity to lead with HART. Thank you.
Your hand is raised. Is that from before, or do you would you like to be recognized?
Is that for me, Madam Chair?
Myers, Gwen Myers.
Thank you.
No.
Okay, if you will take your hand down, and Director Knight, you're recognized.
No, I decline.
All right. All right. Well, that's looks like the end of the board discussion. And I just want to add my support to the motion. I think we're at a great, I'm very excited. I think we're at a great place where we can really move forward. And Ms. LeGrand, I would like to assure you that I think it's so obvious to me that I assume the rest of the board understands that these triggering points you've indicated are certainly points where it would make sense to consider a healthy pay increase. If we got the surtax money, for example, or some other surtax or funding source in that of that nature, it would certainly not be unreasonable for us to consider a healthy salary increase at that time, because your job would change dramatically if in that instance, and entail an order of magnitude difference in the kind of work that you would be doing from where we are today. So I hope you have some comfort in knowing that you have a board here who will be open to you and your needs and your what's fair compensation for you moving forward as we get to know each other. But I appreciate your what I take to be your willingness to move forward and allow us all time to get to know each other and work together before we consider any other increases, given the very stressed nature of our budget and the extra trying times we're in right now. Is there anything else, Ms. LeGrand, that you would like to add to the conversation before I call the question?
One other thing, I know that it was stated that you would take this motion forward and then come back to another board meeting in January. Is there any flexibility to re-engage prior to that? It's just that I would also like to get some closure, and I'm sure my current employer, who's probably listening right now, has been asking what is going on and what are you doing? So I would love to be able to come back and say, I have another job opportunity and I am going to resign. So, we've been in limbo since this has been a super public process since November 2nd. And it would be great if I could at least get back to my employer and start this job in January instead of dragging us through another fiscal year, another budget, of me being in their budget. And again, I know these are all, as my kids would say, first world problems, but it would be great if we could gain some closure and get this resolved in this calendar year if possible.
Thank you. And let me say I'm with you. I would love to get this moving, and I know we all would love to get this moving. I don't see these, I'm not seeing this as something that the board can authorize for the chair's signature, given the parameters, but maybe I'm wrong. I'm going to call on Commissioner Kemp and then ask our General Counsel, David Smith, if there's some way that if General Counsel feels that we have enough to move forward on with this motion, that if a contract included everything we had decided here today, that would be a good enough basis for the board to authorize the chair to sign the contract in some way, or if we would need to have a some kind of an emergency meeting in order to do that. Commissioner Kemp, any thoughts?
Thank you. I had the same concern right from the beginning of the motion. That was my only concern, but I wanted to nail down the other parts of it first and see what the board's thoughts were on that. So I think I'd like to hear from Mr. Smith, because I would hope that we could maybe finalize this today or authorize the chair, whatever it might take. I really am not inclined to wait till January.
Mr. Smith, any thoughts?
Specificity of the motion. I believe Mr. Hudson has provided even detail to the point of a CPI adjustment to whatever the car allowance would be. I think we have sufficient specifics for this board to authorize you to sign the contract that's negotiated, by the way, with outside counsel Cindy Townsend, our Labor and Employment Counsel. and authorize you to sign as long as general counsel also agrees it fits within all of the parameters approved by the board. If there's something that doesn't fit, then we'll have to go back to board for approval. Or you could, of course, have a special meeting, or you could appoint an ad hoc committee. But I think you have the ability to authorize the chair to sign it. I don't think we're going to have difficulties getting clearly within the confines of what the board approves if the motion is approved.
So would I need to make an amendment to the motion, Mr. Smith, to include that, or vote on an amendment that would specify that, or?
I would like the motion to include the fact that when the contract is negotiated with outside labor employment counsel, Cindy Townsend, if it meets all the parameters and is also agreed to as by the general counsel that it meets the board parameters, it can be executed by the chair.
So I would either like to amend, or Mr. Hudson, if he could put that in his motion, if that's appropriate, Mr. Smith.
Mr. Kemp, I think the simplest way would be to check with Director Hudson and see if he wants to, withdraw the motion and remake it so that it's not coming back to the board, but it comes for a chair signature as Council Smith described. The only way I'm signing this is if our labor attorney, Cindy Townsend, as well as General Counsel David Smith, advise that there is no material deviation from what we have, the way we've revised the written contract we've all seen in the parameters described by the motion today. Is that something Mr. Hudson feels like he would like to do?
Yes. Just as a point of order, can I amend my own motion, or should I just withdraw and make a new one that is comprehensive?
Remake it, yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'll withdraw my motion that's on the table and make a new motion that, number one, we direct staff to proceed with the preparation of a contract in consultation with outside counsel that is based on the presentation we received at this board meeting with the following two changes. Number one, that any vehicle allowance not exceed what was given to prior CEOs subject to increases for inflation. Number two, that the triggering events in the presentation only trigger a interim performance review with any base salary increases to be solely at the board's discretion, and that if a contract is prepared that materially complies with this motion, that the Madam Chair be authorized to execute it prior to a subsequent board meeting.
And seeing no other hands raised, Commissioner Myers, I understand you cannot take your hand down, so if you do need to speak while your hand is not functioning, please speak up. But other than that, seeing no further discussion, let's call a roll call vote on the motion.
Madam Chair, point of order. I didn't hear a second. Was there one?
Yes, Commissioner Kemp seconded the motion by Director Tyler Hudson.
Good morning, this is Danielle from HART. Please say yes or no after your name is called. Director Castor?
Yes.
Director Frazier?
Yes.
Director Hudson?
Yes.
Director Johnson?
Yes.
Director Knight?
Yes.
Director Myers?
Yes.
Director Schisler?
Yes.
Director Williams?
Yes.
Director Kemp?
Yes.
Director McLean?
Yes.
Director Overman?
Yes.
Chair Smith?
Yes.
Director Vieira?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. All the wonderful things in the world.
Yay.
Yay.
And thank you, Ms. LeGrand, for coming to join us today and for being flexible and for having this discussion with us. I know I'm speaking for everybody saying we're all very much looking forward to getting started with you, and we can't wait. So thank you very much.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
All right. Moving on with the agenda. Mr. Smith, do you mind if we keep the rest of your item until after we've gone through the action items? I think that would be probably best to make sure we get through the action items of item 6.
Makes sense. That's fine. Thank you.
All right. So that takes us back to item 6 in our agenda with the action items. And first, we have a presentation that is a follow-up to the discussion held at the October 19 Operations and Safety Committee. Staff incorporated answers to questions from the committee members in this updated presentation regarding action items A and B. Mr. Scott Drainville, Deputy Director of Maintenance, you are recognized to make a presentation comparing the costs of CNG and electric buses.
Yes, good morning again, Madam Chair, board members. Scott Drainville, Deputy Chief of Maintenance and Facilities for HART. So yes, this presentation is a follow-up to the bus purchase presentation I presented at the October Ops and Safety Committee. And I'll be covering fuel economy and costs, a breakdown of HART's monthly CNG costs, and some of the benefits and challenges of both electric and CNG buses. Next slide. So when it comes to fuel economy, electric buses are much more fuel efficient, 4.7 times more efficient. 37.6 kilowatt hours of electrical energy is equal to 1 gallon of diesel fuel. Both CNG and diesel buses average 4 miles per diesel gallon equivalent. Electric buses on average burn 2 kilowatt hours per mile, equaling a fuel efficiency of 18.8 miles per DGE. Regarding fuel costs, electric buses are 3.7 times more expensive to run than the CNG buses. At the October Ops and Safety presentation, I used Star Metro and Tallahassee's August electricity costs and uses as an example. With a fuel efficiency of 2.8 kilowatt hours per mile and an average cost of 29 cents a kilowatt hour, this determined their cost per mile at 84 cents. HART CNG buses average 4 miles per DGE at an average cost of 94 cents, equaling a cost per mile at 23 cents. And this is excluding any rebates we might be able to collect. Initial bus costs, electric buses cost 1.8 times more than CNG buses. Battery electric buses with the charger comes in at just under $986,000, and CNG buses at $533,000. And that's with HART specific configurables. Next slide. So here I'm breaking down all associated CNG costs using the month of August as an example. So if you look to the right, we pay Infinite Energy for the gas supply. We pay TECO for the delivery of gas. We pay Trillium for the ops and maintenance, and TECO for the electricity to run the CNG station. HART does qualify for a monthly rebate of $2,295, and that's due to having a backup generator on site for the CNG station. HART CNG buses ran more than 320,000 miles using 89,000 gallons per diesel gallon equivalent of CNG with a fuel efficiency of 3.6 miles per gallon. If you look on the left, we break down the initial fuel cost is $71,227.77. And then when you add in the rebates, we do qualify for an IRS rebate at 50 cents per gasoline gallon equivalent, and the monthly backup generator rebate brings that cost down to $11,424.55. So in the end, the cost per mile drops significantly from 23 cents to 4 cents a mile. Next slide. So here we show some benefits and challenges of each of the buses. When looking at the benefits of an electric bus, it's the lowest impact on the carbon footprint. Fuel economy is 4 times greater. They're quieter vehicles, no fluid changes, and the scheduled maintenance average about 10 cents a mile. The challenges, limited driving range, 150 miles between full charges. Currently, HART has no routes less than 150 miles a day. Recovery time is 3 to 6 hours. Infrastructure development and on-route charging, and utility and long-term costs. The benefits of CNG. CNG buses can run 400 miles on a full tank of fuel. We can refuel them between 5 and 8 minutes. And we also have an on-site direct pipeline of CNG on the backup generator. Fuel costs below $1 per DGE, and they stay pretty consistent throughout the year. The challenges, limited access to public CNG fueling stations. Meeting worst case scenario if we lost power and the backup generator. then we have to go to find a public CNG station. A limited growth based on CNG skids or stations and annual facility compliance inspections. Next slide. And that concludes the presentation. I'm happy to take any questions or comments.
Thank you. Commissioner Kemp, you're recognized.
Thank you. And thank you, Mr. Drainville. I know we've been around and around about this a bit, but at any rate, I just want to, for the record, and I am not opposed to purchasing the CNG buses or authorizing the purchase, should we have that ability at this time. However, I've looked at this a few times, and this is really getting into the nitty gritty a bit, but I believe that you said the CNG is 23 cents a mile, but when we get the rebates provided by the IRS, and I think there was another rebate, that it goes down to 4 cents a mile. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So if that incentive were to change, if, for instance, federal law changes to no longer provide that incentive and it were to cost up, then we could cost up at 23 cents a mile instead. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And then you said about the electricity, and I'll just say to the board, I think that in the future, this is a very good possibility that our federal, that we will no longer be incentivizing CNG use. I'll just put that up there. The other is that you talked about electric being 29 cents a mile based on figures from the Tallahassee Star Metro, correct?
That's correct.
And I guess what confuses me about that, and I know they're under Gulf Electric, is that their company?
Oh, I don't have that information.
And so, but what I guess I'm not understanding is that in Hillsborough County, which is totally under TECO Electric, we're paying 12 cents a kilowatt hour. So why then 29 cents?
So there's not a fixed rate per kilowatt hour. It all depends on the demand and the peak service. And that's not in set, like 11 o'clock today says it's peak time every day. It doesn't work like that. It's what your peak time is. So when I used Star Metro, I averaged out there, they have 6 depot charges and they're paying 36 cents a kilowatt hour. And then they have 3 fast on-route charges, one at 32 cents, one at 24 cents, and one at 26 cents. So it's really the use. Each of them have their own meter, and it's the use of that charging station. And then I averaged.
Okay, so I just want to put this out here too. When you use your own solar panels to charge your own buses, which is part of what Proterra is now selling in packages, and I realize we're not there yet, but that you can reduce your fuel costs to almost nothing. We got hit with really high fuel costs last year. It's been a part of an issue we've had. I do expect that not only will the incentivizing of the purchase of CNG fuels or the subsidizing, I guess I should say, of CNG fuels in the future will not be there. But I do expect that it is very likely that, and I didn't realize I didn't have my video on here, but that the cost of CNG could go up in the future and significantly impact us. As well, from what I've seen of other maintenance in other places, the cost of maintenance for electric buses is far reduced over the cost of the CNG or diesel buses. I'm just putting all this out here for the future because I know that there are major bus transit systems across the nation, Foothills in Los Angeles, New York, City, that is looking to go all electric in the next decade. So I'm putting that out there. I will be a strong advocate for us moving to electric buses, but that doesn't mean that I'll be opposing this measure this morning, but I certainly want to review this in the future. And I think I'm just warning us, we will have these buses for the next 10 years. And I think that these costs could change significantly in that time.
Thank you. Director Knight, you're recognized. Director Knight, your hand is up. You're recognized if you wish to speak.
We can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Chair Smith, can you hear us in the room?
I hear you.
Okay, give me one moment.
Good morning. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, they can hear you.
Okay, good morning, Chair. I'd just like to suggest perhaps on this with Mr. Drainville, the information that we delay it or wait till the next CEO, our next CEO who just left, get involved in it. Being that the pandemic and everything going on, there's no real rush to make that decision right now. I would love for her to be part of that. That's all I wanted to comment on.
Mr. Drainville, can you address that idea?
Well, professional opinion is that I think it's funded now, and we should take advantage of getting our capital replacement up and running again. I just showed the benefits of our CNG. I think we have a phenomenal CNG program, and I think putting that out, we could lose production slots with the manufacturers.
Thank you. Commissioner Kemp, you're recognized. Commissioner Kemp?
Thank you. Sorry, I was getting unmuted. And you said we're funded now, but we cannot purchase these, correct, unless we were to get the sales tax?
No, these purchases are fully funded right now in our FY21 capital budget.
Oh, okay. I wasn't aware of that. I know it says that, but I thought it was dependent on receiving that additional revenue.
Commissioner Overman, you're recognized.
Thank you. I wanted to ask if, given that it's funded, 2, we need to move forward, 3, then we might lose a discount. Do you need a motion to approve the resolution at this point, or are we receiving the report at this point?
No,
yes.
No, we would need an approved to get it approved today.
Okay, then I'll make a motion to approve resolution R 2020-1248.
And I was going to ask Mr. Smith, can we take these together? Could we have a motion to approve them both in one roll call vote to save time? If that's the will of the board?
Them all at one time, if that's the will of the board, after you've had your discussion and get motions on each of them to be approved.
Objection, I'll modify my motion to approve R 2020-1248 as well as R 2020-1249.
And I second Director McLean.
Great. I've got a motion by Commissioner Overman, second by Director McLean to authorize both those resolutions authorize the purchase of both the CNG buses and the electric buses as noted in the agenda. Director Knight, did you have any further discussion on the motion?
No.
Thank you. With that, we'll take a roll call vote.
Thank you. Director Castor?
Yes.
Director Frazier?
Yes.
Director Hudson?
Yes.
Director Johnson?
Yes.
Director Knight?
Yes.
Director Schisler?
Yes.
Director Williams?
Yes.
Director Kemp?
Yes.
Director McLean?
Yes.
Director Overman,
Yes.
Chair Smith,
Yes.
Director Vieira.
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you. That brings us to 6C, Tyler Rowland, Manager of Communications and Creative Services. We'll have a short presentation in support of the public streetcar station sponsorship agreement.
Yes.
You're recognized.
Good morning, Board. This will be a brief overview of the public streetcar station sponsorship agreement, which began last year in July of 2019. The Tampa Historic Streetcar General Council, along with the councils from the City of Tampa and Hillsborough Area Transit Authority, negotiated and agreed to, pending on the necessary board approvals, First Amendment to Station Sponsorship Agreement with Public Supermarkets to extend the station sponsorship agreement previously entered into between the parties on July 27th, 2019, allowing Publix to sponsor the streetcar system by naming a station stop. And this will be a continuation of that sponsorship for 2020-2021. So we have the resolution to bring in front of you today. So resolution R 2020-12-50, execution of the First Amendment to Station Sponsorship Agreement between Public Supermarkets, Tampa Historic Streetcar, Inc., the City of Tampa, and Hillsborough Area Regional Transit Authority to extend the term of the station sponsorship agreement, allowing Publix to sponsor the streetcar system by naming a station stop and to provide for modification of the station signage.
Okay. Is your presentation concluded?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. Then we're looking for a motion to that effect, but, and I see some hands raised. Director Knight, is your hand raised?
No, it is not.
All right. Motion by Commissioner
Kemp.
Do I have a second? Do I have a second to the motion?
Second, this is Commissioner Overman.
Great. I see no further discussion. Let's take a roll call vote on the motion by Commissioner Overman.
Director Castor,
Yes.
Director Frazier,
Yes.
Director Hudson,
Yes.
Director Johnson,
Yes.
Director Knight,
Yes.
Director Myers,
Yes.
Director Schisler,
Yes.
Director Williams,
Yes. Yes.
Director Kemp,
Yes.
Director McLean,
Yes.
Director Overman,
Yes.
Chair Smith,
Yes.
Director Vieira.
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you. So coming to item 6D, to accept the state block grant funding from FDOT. Cindy Stiglick, interim CFO, will present this action item. Good morning, Ms. Stiglick. You're recognized.
Thank you. Good morning, Madam Chair and Directors. Again, for the record, Cindy Stiglitz, Interim CFO for HART. There is no presentation with this today. You just have a resolution before you authorizing the interim CEO to execute a grant agreement between HART and the Florida Department of Transportation. It is our annual state block grant funding for FY21 in the amount of $5,415,165. The block grant is an annual grant. It is primarily used for the reimbursement of operating expenses. It requires a match in the same amount of the $5,415,165, and that's provided by our general fund. It's satisfied through the payment of salaries, benefits, and related taxes for bus operators. And I'll stop there.
So moved, Commissioner Kemp.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Kemp, second by Commissioner Overman. Councilman Schisler, did you have a question or a comment? A roll call vote on the motion.
Director Castor,
Yes.
Director Frazier,
Yes.
Director Hudson,
Yes.
Director Johnson,
Yes.
Director Myers,
Yes.
Director Schisler,
Yes.
Director Williams,
Yes.
Director Kemp,
Yes.
Director Knight,
Yeah, yeah.
Director McLean,
Yes.
Director Overman, Director Overman,
I'm sorry, yes?
Chair Smith,
Yes.
Director Vieira.
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Great. Item 6E is the Flamingo Fair structure changes, and we all have a presentation by Emmanuel Nunez, Manager of Revenue and Retail Sales, and Ms. Sherry Leparati, Compliance Officer, and Donnie Murray, Senior Community Engagement Specialist. Welcome. You're all recognized.
Good morning. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. This is, for the record, my name is Emmanuel Nunez, Manager of Retail Sales and Revenue. This is a presentation about Flamingo Fairs and what changed in comparison to our current fair structure. Next slide, please. Thank you. We will be covering some of the main benefits that Flamingo Fairs program has to offer. The changes brought by implementing Flamingo Fairs, and we will present about our outreach initiative used to engage with our customers. Next slide, please. First, with this slide, we'd like to present a bit of a background by showing you the timeline of events. First, we started with a beta testing where we introduced our Flamingo Fairs to our customer and to use this as a payment method. And we started this back on February 5th, and we still have this until this day. We also had a Title VI study during our summer months. We will provide information about this a little bit later in the presentation. We also plan outreaches about Flamingo Fairs during the month of October. And just plan we also executed when it comes to this. We will present that about it later. We kind of took about 3-4 weeks in the month of October for this. This was approved back in August. We also had a public hearing where we provided a presentation about Flamingo Fairs. This happened back on November 4th. And we're here today to present to you an action item about the approvals of the Flamingo Fairs. And the approval of this Flamingo Fairs will take effect January 2021 to coexist with our current fair structures until January 30th. So that way we have both fairs running and provide us with a time of transition to our customer. So that way when we reach July 1st, we will leave Flamingo Fair as the only fair structure available for HART. Next slide, please. Beginning on July 1st, 2021, HART will discontinue paper passes and introduce a daily and monthly fare capping through Flamingo Fairs, a mobile app or the smart card that would allow the customer to pay as they go and always pay the lowest fare. The new introduction, it will be the smart card will have a cost of $3 per card. HART will start changing, we'll start charging for this smart card on July 1st. And currently, we have been providing this card at no cost to the customer since the start of the beta testing. Minimum load, which is another change, minimum load of $5, it is applied on the online website, the app, or third-party retailers. Minimum load does not apply to HART customer service location like Marion Transit Center and University Transit Center. Next slide, please. This slide will show our current fare structure, which we show about 7 categories and 27 products. This is confusing customer, employees, and anybody that you would like to explain this particular fare structure. So this current fare structure will coexist for about 6 months until July 1st. So that way we provide this time of transition to our customer. We're able to provide more information to our customer, and people get accustomed to the system. So it kind of gives us a total of almost about a year and a half transitional process. So we could get the customer used to our app, used to our smart cards. A Flamingo card and the replacement fee, we will start charging this of $3 on July 2021. After July 1st, cash and available paper passes, they will be accepted on all buses. HART Transit Centers, MTC and UATC, will also accept cash. Paper passes will not be available at transit centers after July 1st. Next slide, please. With Flamingo Fares bring two types of payment for transits. We have first the mobile app, which is available at this time. You can download it through Google Play Store, or the Apple App Store. Discount fares will not be available on the mobile app. We can use the app as a managed software, but the discount is only applicable on the Flamingo card, on the actual physical card. Next slide, please. And it's where I explained the Flamingo fare cards when it comes to the discount spend. So Flamingo cards will have the same features as the Flamingo discount cards will have the same features as the regular Flamingo cards. They just have to meet the eligibility requirements what we currently have in place. That process hasn't changed. This card can be used as a discount permit ID to request discounts when onboarding the bus or purchasing the regular paper passes during the transition. So we currently provide an ID to our discount customer. But in this process, that hasn't really changed other than the actual card. Currently, we provide a picture card with a name and the type of qualification for discount. That process doesn't change. We just move this to a brand new card, which also gets personalized with the name of the customer and the discount that they get. So that way, we don't charge them over the current rate. Next slide, please. These are the main benefits our customer will enjoy. Flamingo Fare is designed to save our customer money. Fare capping is a smart card advantage that allows the customer to pay as they go and always pay the lowest fare. Customers that choose a round trip will automatically be upgraded to a day pass. Customers that ride frequently will automatically be upgraded to a monthly pass once they have paid for 33 trips during a one calendar month. Customer will pay no more than $4 per day or no more than $65 per month. Discount program participants will pay no more than $2 per day or $32.50 per month. Flamingo Fare also offers balance protection, which means that once the customer loads money into their account, the funds stay in their account until they use it. If a card is reported as lost or stolen, the customer can easily access their account online, or they'll go to an in-store account access to block the card or request a replacement. Another benefit, it will be a one-card media to pay or have access to other transit systems. That would include Pinellas County, Paso, Sarasota, and Hernando. And now I will hand it over to Cherie for the Title VI customer input. Next slide.
Good morning. Thank you. Thank you, Emmanuel. Good morning, board members and meeting attendees. For the record, this is Cherie Leparati, HART Compliance Officer and Title VI Administrator. In accordance with the Federal Transit Administration requirements, HART conducted a Title VI fare equity analysis to determine if any aspect of Flamingo fares could create a disparate impact on minority or a disproportionate burden on low-income populations. Great efforts were made to seek input from limited English proficient minority, low income, and other transit-dependent communities that historically do not participate in traditional means of soliciting feedback. 117 HART customers provided feedback for this effort. Next slide. HART identified e-policies that had the potential to cause minority and/or low-income populations to be treated differently compared to other populations. E-fare policies are defined as the deliberate system of principles established to guide decisions and achieve rational outcomes of the e-fare program. Each policy was screened against a set of established criteria to determine if the e-policy could have a greater effect on minority or low-income populations. If evidence of a disparate impact on minority populations or a disproportionate burden on low-income populations was revealed, a mitigation strategy was developed and applied to reduce or eliminate the disproportionate impacts. Plans to implement the proposed mitigation strategies are underway for e-fare implementation policy, the one-day 10-pack bulk sales policy, the e-fare retail purchase policy, account registration, and the $5 minimum load policy. Next slide, please. Online management discount fares are unavailable through the app, and a cost of new and replacement card e-policies remain under review and are currently being further evaluated. Appropriate mitigation strategies will be developed and implemented prior to the program implementation and evaluated during operations to ensure that each of our e-policies is Title VI compliant. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Donnie Murray. I'm the Senior Community Engagement Specialist, and this will be a summary of how we went about the process for receiving public input for the fare structure changes. Next slide, please. So this process of receiving public input is critical to ensure that HART maintains a fare structure that is easy for riders to understand, that is inexpensive, and that is easy for us to administer. So with these goals in mind, we opened up channels for comments to be submitted to us, and we had multiple digital and in-person methods, and then promoted this opportunity to provide feedback on our website, social media, emails, buses, transit centers, and with heavy radio advertising in English and Spanish. All of this to make sure that we got the word out to reach our diverse communities that we serve. And flyers about the fare structure changes, the public meeting dates, and the benefits of Flamingo fares were also provided in English and Spanish. Next slide. A number of education events with HART staff also took place at our 7 transit and transfer centers across the county during peak hours throughout October, which led up to the hybrid virtual and in-person public hearing earlier last month. And this outreach was a key part to the process because Flamingo Fares is brand new to just about everyone. So it took a good amount of time to have those one-on-one conversations so we could explain how this new system is going to change with their everyday routine. Next slide. So in total, we received 48 comments and reached 702 people at the transit and transfer centers over the course of 108 hours of HART staff street team at those transit and transfer centers. Most of the input we received were less so comments and more so just questions about what will replace paper passes, and then questions about the fundamentals of how Flamingo fares will actually work when the rest of the system is fully up and running. And a summary of these comments are included in your meeting packet, along with the FAQ answering these questions that we mainly heard throughout the process. So we will continue to do education with similar outreach events and new materials, and we will continue to increase our efforts leading up to next July and beyond as the remaining components of Flamingo Fares come online. And now I'll hand it back over to Emmanuel.
Thank you, Donnie. So the purpose of this presentation is to come in with an action items, also to authorize the implementation of Flamingo Fares, and to answer also any questions you may have. And that concludes the presentation.
Thank you. And just to be clear on the answer to the question raised by the gentleman at the beginning of our meeting, I think that's on page 66 of our backup, the slide that talks about the discount Flamingo cards available for disabilities and visually impaired and disabled veterans, as well as seniors. Can you just speak to that very quickly?
Sure. And I'll start with our current process. We provide an application, or we're also customer will come in with their Medicare card, will come in with their visual impaired card from Lighthouse for the Blind, and we accept both those to provide a discount. When we process the discount, we provide the customer with an ID, a personalized ID that have their picture They have an expiration date, and also, or sometimes they're permanent. And also we'll have the type of category, fare category, so that way it is known to the operator, their discount personnel and or customers, and they will actually be able to receive a discount on their buses or transit center. So that when we transfer this to Flamingo, it is essentially what we're doing is just changing the actual card in between, and instead of having a non-smart card, we're just providing a smart card. So that way the customer could enjoy the benefits of fare capping. So that way they don't get paid, they don't pay more than $2 a day, which is our current rate, and that's not changing. In addition to that, a monthly pass is like $32.50, and that's not changing. So that way they get the same benefit as everybody else.
Thank you. Councilman Schisler, you're recognized.
I'm not sure, though, that addresses the concern of the individual who spoke at the beginning of the meeting. I was under the impression that it was an actual usage issue as opposed to a discount/cost issue. And I was just wondering, A, can we do we understand what their concern was, and B, how can we address that?
Mr. Nunez?
Sure. I'm answering. All right. So our technology on the Flamingo mobile app, it is only applicable to regular fares. It only provides one code, one QR code to validate on the bus. It's not applicable to discount fares. I don't believe the technology at this moment allowed this to happen. So what we involved with the solution was to provide the same solution that we have right now, which is we provide a discount card to our customers so that way they could enjoy the discount fares. What the mobile app allows is for you to manage your account. So you do have a discount card, you'll be able to manage your discount rate on the mobile app by adding your physical cards to it, and you could actually fulfill the funding to your card so that way you're able to pay on the bus.
Councilman?
Okay, maybe I'm missing something. Is that addressing the issue, or is that, or I don't get the impression that it is. I believe the issue is in the actual ability to utilize the card by certain individuals with given handicaps. How can that be addressed, or how will that be addressed? I guess is my question.
Card is being used. I'm guessing the concern for Mr. Gonzalez was that he wants to use the QR code or the virtual card that is assigned on the mobile app. And the mobile app only assigns a regular QR code, does not assign a discount code. So the discount code is only, or I'm sorry, the discount card is the medium that is used to provide the discount rate to our customer, and that way they're able to use that as a payment on the bus. And I'm sure Mr. Gonzalez, he does have an actual discount card, and then that process doesn't really change. They just get with a card. But the mobile app, going back to the mobile app, it does not provide a discount rate or discount code to a customer directly.
So therefore, it's not a usage issue, it's a financial issue.
Madam Chair, this is Cindy Sticklich. May I speak?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, just for clarification, the discount card that they use today requires an identification. So when someone gets onto the bus that's eligible for the discount program, they use the paper pass in conjunction with an identification that's provided by HART. So what the Flamingo card will do will suffice as both. They will have their identification on the back of the card, so they'll be able to get on, use that card to be afforded a discount fare, as well as that suffices as their ID. So what I believe Mr. Westala is speaking of is that the current mobile app, the way in which that is configured technology-wise, does not allow for the relief of their account in a half fare increment. it only relieves someone's account in a full fare increment. So I believe that is what he's speaking of. We're looking at technology that could possibly address that. It does not exist today, but they always have the option of using the Flamingo card. It is not a functional issue. That application has been validated by ADA organizations, and there is no functional issue with using that for those that may have disabilities and having difficulty in being able to access the application for account management or anything like that. And I'll stop there.
Thank you. So they'll get the discount. It's a little bit different. They'll have a discount card, and they will be able to manage their account via an app, but they just can't get the discount through the QR code on the app. But they will have a discount card that will allow them to use the discount.
The Flamingo card itself it will look like the Flamingo card that others use, except it will have their identification on the back. Therefore, they're only those that are eligible for the half fare program, including students and others, will only have to carry one card. The Flamingo card, again, will suffice as both the fare as well as their identification.
Thank you. Councilman Schisler, is that all right?
That's fine. Move to adopt resolution R 2020-12-52.
Kemp.
Second by Commissioner Kemp. Commissioner Kemp, you're next in the queue. You're recognized.
Thank you. Well, I am pleased to see Flamingo coming forward. It has had a seemingly rough time coming to fruition, but I have watched it. I think it's going to provide some great opportunity for us, and I think in terms of the what it will do in moving us forward as a transit agency. And I also think I had some hesitation and some concerns about the different fares, the ability. I know we'll be giving out the cards for the first 6 months without charge, and after that a $3 charge. It is just what they've been doing in transit agencies and other communities. So we're really just moving into that realm. And I was concerned about some of the charging and how it would affect our most challenged, economically challenged riders, low-income riders. But it looks like it is doing that. In fact, doing that with some benefits in that regard. And there's, I think, room here and opportunity in the future to even look at that further and think about how we could do that, even in terms of maybe employers purchasing and filling the cards on a regular basis. So I think it could open up some very good opportunities in the future, and happy to see it moving forward.
Thank you. Commissioner Overman, you're recognized.
Thank you. And I just want to make sure I'm understanding correctly. Just a quick question. I will support the resolution, but I think there's the issue associated with the online support system, the minority, non-English, low-income, and people with disabilities issue associated with not having access to online fare management because of a QR code. I think it's important that we put pressure on Flamingo to recognize that there might be an opportunity to adopt a discount QR code. I mean, that the account is identified, the process of applying for the discount is attached to the user. And if the user is issued a card that has a QR code programmed to it, it seems like a no-brainer to me. I'm like, wait, I don't understand. So if the issue is asking the Flamingo or software designer to identify a discount QR code associated with those that are eligible to assure that utilization is fair across all of our ridership, I'm not sure that that's big stretch. So with that, I will support the motion, but I would like to make sure that it is clear that the Flamingo look to addressing the Title VI requirements and make sure that we have a solution for those individuals that are eligible for a discount with the same level of access and benefits available to all of our riders. And I'll stop there.
Thank you. Director Frazier, you're recognized.
I understood, for clarification on the caller's concern, he seemed to indicate that because we were offering the alternative of the app that doesn't have the discount, that for some reason that takes us out of ADA compliance. And I just want to confirm that because we are providing the alternatives of the card and cash, essentially, that I guess could comply with the discount, it does not render us for some reason non-ADA compliant because we're offering the app. Am I understanding that properly?
Mr. Nunez or Ms. Diglick?
This is Cindy. I'll speak. What I want to remind everybody is that we are going to be running parallel systems for the next 6 months. And we are aware that this is a concern for Mr. Wisdala and I'm assuming others that may feel that they want to have the ability to use the application. So we are looking at that hard right now to determine if there is a way in which we can do this equitably without, a risk of opening a system. Everything that has to do with technology, there's always the ability to misuse that technology. So we are absolutely looking at that, and we will reevaluate over the next 6 months. And before we completely transition in July, we will definitely have an answer and a solution to this issue.
Thank you. Director Frazier, is that true for you?
I just wanted to, on the equity and position on it, I agree with Commissioner Overman that, we need to make sure the app company is working on it. I'm asking from a legal standpoint, is it just legally, is it an issue or is it not an issue? He seemed to raise a legal issue with it.
For the record, I've not reviewed all of the aspects of the program, so I'm not providing you a definitive opinion. Plus, I'm always reticent to provide a legal opinion that could be used against us. But we will look at it and make sure we do not have a compliance problem. There's always alternative solutions that are allowed, like a ramp versus stairs, elevators, So we need to look at that and make sure these are sufficient.
Thank you.
Director Hudson, you're recognized.
I'm going to obviously support this because I think it's an important program to advance. But at the next board meeting, I'd love to get some insight on a couple questions I have that don't need to be answered now, but just putting them on the record. I mean, one is, why is July 1 such an important date? Are there some kind of KPIs that we can gather between now and then in terms of daily active users, adoption rates that know that we are ready to make that switch? Because I think if that switch is not done well, that will be quite bad. Also, I think anything we can do to push more free cards into the community, I think is great. I think that's such an important removing. It seems like a minor barrier, $3. But I just think anything we can do to reduce the friction of adoption is going to be very important to do. Also, just understanding whether operators are going to have to handle cash transactions. I mean, from a security standpoint, what does that mean? So those are just some things that I would love. And also, just echoing Commissioner Overman's point, we live in an age of technological miracles. I can watch my son take a nap from my phone. The idea that we can't get a discount QR code just completely bamboozles me. So if that's the answer we're getting from the vendor, that's the wrong answer. So I'd love to hear some more about that in January. Thanks.
Yes, and I would suggest too that possibly staff might that is involved in this might get with you between now and January and get a deeper dive into some of these concerns, and then consider whether to bring back some a little bit of information to the board on these kinds of questions. And Councilman Vieira, you're recognized.
Thank you. much, Madam Chair. I appreciate it. You know, my concerns were addressed, I think, by my friend and colleague, Director Frazier, on some of the remarks that she made. I'm certainly interested in seeing what some of the responses will be continually to the concerns of the individual that came to us from public comment. You know, when it comes to the phone app, we got to make sure that it's 100% accessible with rollout tutorials, et cetera, for people who may have challenges with that, obviously. But that's all. Director Frazier, I think, addressed a lot of my concerns. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. And if everyone will take their hands down when they're done speaking, I see no further discussion. So we have a motion on the floor by Councilman Schisler, second by Commissioner Kemp, to adopt this resolution about moving the implementing the Flamingo Fairs structure in the timeframe as indicated. Let's have a roll call vote.
Yes, ma'am. Director Castor?
Yes.
Director Frazier?
Yes.
Director Hudson?
Yes.
Director Johnson?
Yes.
Director Knight?
Yes.
Director Myers?
Yes.
Director Schisler?
Yes.
Director Williams?
Yes.
Director Kemp?
Yes.
Director McLean?
Yes.
Director Overman?
Yes.
Chair Smith?
Yes.
Director Vieira?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Great. And thank you, board members. We just have a couple more action items today. So if we can just keep our quorum and keep the discussion moving, I think we will finish everything. The next item is Mr. Chris Cochran, Director of Service Development. You are recognized to present our next action item regarding the on-demand service in downtown Tampa.
Thank you, Chair Smith. Good morning, board members. Can everyone hear me okay? Excellent. So this morning we have a board action item to authorize the interim chief executive officer to execute an MOU between the Tampa Downtown Partnership and HART to assist with operating the on-demand transportation service from January 1, 2021 through March 31st. 2021 in an amount not to exceed $310,000. As many of you know, this is a program that we've been involved with for a period of time. We recently issued a solicitation for a point-to-point and circular service back in June of this year. The solicitation, unfortunately, was formally protested in late October after the evaluation process was completed and subsequently canceled on November 5th. During this period of time of the RFP, we had an existing extension that carried through December 31st to ensure that the downtowner service was able to operate. At this point in time, we are looking to extend essentially the exact same terms and agreements that we had under the previous, at this point in time, the existing MOU that we have in place, with an additional $310,000 that DOT has provided to be able to continue this service until an additional another RFP is put out, or whether or not we decide to do that. The city, with the commitment, thank you, Director Castor, has committed to providing the match that is required for the downtowner to continue through March 31st. So essentially this MOU is really everything that you all have approved before. Nothing is different. We are essentially just a pass-through of the funding. There is $0 that HART is committed to in funding this program. The city and DOT will be funding this program through March 31st until time we figure out exactly what we want to do, if we want to put forward another RFP or approach it in a different way. So with
Can't
that,
hear you.
I'm sorry. So with that, we'll put forward the action item to y'all to be able to approve this.
Thank you. Commissioner Kemp, you're recognized.
Thank you. And I won't belabor this, but we have so many new board members. I also don't want to miss kind of the opportunity here. For the past 2 or 3 years, I've been in strong opposition to this because it was funded by HART. And I thought it was a very inequitable funding to provide in downtown what is on-demand taxi-like, Uber-like, Lyft-like transportation within the downtown area for free. And all of that being paid for by HART when we were so desperately needed in terms of other services. At this point, it is paid for by FDOT, $310,000 for this very small interim service. You could do equivalent bus service for a year if for usually about 500,000 a route, if I'm not mistaken here. And we could look at that for downtown instead. And I know that that is part of what's going on, but I would just like to voice my opposition, particularly, I think, if the riders, and I know this is being paid for again by the city and FDOT at this point, so I'm not opposing it, but particularly the riders not having to pay any kind of fee for this service, I found it very inequitable and very disparate, especially when we're talking about equity issues and especially in transportation now. So I'll just wanted to put that on the record. It's probably been a long discussion here, about 5 times in the past, and with so many new members, I felt it important to just address it one more time.
Thank you. Councilman Schisler, you're recognized.
Thank you. I was curious, simply because I know in my 2 years we've addressed this issue about 4 or 5 times now, but what was the nature of the objection, and does it create any legal issues for us as the board?
Director John Edmondson, if you're online, I'll let procurement answer this. I don't want to miscommunicate anything.
For the record, John Edmondson, Director of Procurement. A member of the evaluation committee had made some comments during a public meeting at HART that one of the proposing vendors interpreted as being prejudicial against that vendor. And they presented evidence of those comments, and we reviewed them and ultimately determined that while we did not necessarily determine that any wrongdoing was taking place in the actual function of evaluating proposals, our responsibility is both to safeguard against inappropriate conduct or conflicts of interest, but it's also to guarantee and safeguard against the appearance of a conflict of interest or the appearance of an impropriety. And because these comments were made publicly, they were taken out of context, absolutely, but because they were made publicly and because there was the appearance of impropriety, we decided to go ahead and cancel those solicitations.
Councilman Schisler?
Yes, please. Thank you, Madam Chair. As a follow-up to that, thank you very much for the diligence on that and doing all you can to protect us. But as Commissioner Kemp had indicated, we've addressed this before, and yes, it is a pass-through, but it does cost money for us to do this. And it's internal dollars that are being spent. And I'm just curious, how many more times is this going to come up, or is this going to be self-limiting? And I don't know who can answer
This is Mayor Castor. We should have the circulator up and running, and we thought we would have had that by now, but we're working on that diligently and didn't want to take this away as we have the Super Bowl coming to be able to get individuals around in a very efficient manner in the downtown area.
I agree, and I make the resolution to, move to approve Resolution 2020-12-53.
Director Williams, second.
Commissioner Overman, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. And I'll support the motion as it stands now and appreciate both FDOT and the City of Tampa's effort in order to maintain the service in the downtown area, especially during our typically heavily attended tourist season and looking to having a lot of events coming. But after this is disposed, Chair, I'd like to be recognized for a request for a motion to be considered.
All right. So we have a motion on the floor by Councilman Schisler, seconded by Director Williams to execute the MOU between HART and the Tampa Downtown Partnership for this on-demand transportation service. Commissioner Kemp, is your hand still up? Yes.
Yes. I just like to respond to some of the comments that were made, and thank you for the information. What I've had an issue with too is for us doing an RFP on a circulator and not just having a HART circulator. And I understand, especially during the Super Bowl, the reason that this is important. I do not understand going out for a privatized service to replace any of the services that we already offer. So I'm just wondering, and I'll just put that out, not for this moment, but that we should be doing whatever process we can, I think, to get a circulator of our own up and running in time for this season, whatever that may take to do. And I'll put that out for maybe a future item to be considered.
Thank you. So with that, we've got a motion on the floor. Danielle, take roll call vote.
Yes, ma'am. Director Castor?
Yes.
Director Frazier?
Yes.
Director Hudson?
Yes.
Director Johnson?
Yes.
Director Knight?
Yes.
Director Myers?
Yes.
Director Schisler?
Yes.
Director Williams?
Yes.
Director Kemp?
Yes.
Director McLean?
Yes.
Director Overman?
Yes.
Chair Smith?
Yes.
Director Vieira?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Commissioner Overman, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate that. I'd like to put forth a motion to ask staff with our new CEO to come back to this board with a strategic plan for addressing a circulator service for areas that we previously have described as needing. We've had multiple areas, and I'll finish the motion in a second, but in relation to this, we've had multiple areas that have had an interest in a circulator service because of the nature of their urban communities or soon to be urban communities. For example, the downtown area, the university area, the West Shore area, and Waimama. And we've actually found that we've had funding resources available for that, and yet the plan has never moved forward for a variety of reasons. I would like to ask staff to work with our new CEO to come back to us within the next 90 days, depending on when she comes on, let's say by April 30th, with a framework for identifying and facilitating not only funding, but also the potential process of establishing a circulator service in designated areas that have indicated an interest. And I'll stop there.
Vieira will second if I may.
All right, got a motion by Commissioner Overman, second by Councilman Vieira. Commissioner Kemp, you're recognized.
Yes, and I won't support the motion, and I just want to clarify this. We've talked about circulators forever, but there has never been financial resources for them at all. There hasn't even been financial resources for our desperately needed routes that were cut during Mission Max. The resources have never, ever been identified. They're quite expensive to provide that. We're talking about typically $500,000 a year for a pretty de minimis circulator, as we're presented with Plant City the last time, that arrives every half hour. And, it would only come at the expense of other services until we got new revenue. We had to cut very critical services to pay our healthcare costs during Mission Max. So that those monies have never been identified, and it really needs to come, in my mind, in the context of our whole services. A lot of people would love circulator services. A lot of people would like all kinds of things from us, and we're really underserving. As we know, we're the most underfunded transit system in the nation, not just by a little bit for a metro area this size, but by a huge amount equal to Sheboygan, Wisconsin. There have been no identified resources for that. So I would just urge that we just start discussing that in the context of what we do in the future in terms of our entire system, and not at this time pull that out. The one reason I was talking about a possible circulator in the downtown was just because of what we were just hearing about the resources being put aside. If there were 310,000 from FDOT and other resources, maybe for a few months, there could be something like that for HART in downtown if those resources were identified. But at this time, they don't exist. And I really think this needs to be part of a far larger discussion, context, and consideration.
Thank you. Seeing no other discussion on the motion, I will just add, I will support it because I believe there are a lot of areas from uptown to Waimama, University to Waimama, talking about circulators. And I think it would be an important conversation to just let everybody see what those costs are, whether it's feasible or not, and put some of that to bed, or see if we find any reasons for continuing to explore that. So I think it would be fruitful to have that conversation, because we do have these areas constantly asking for this kind of thing. It would be good to see a little discussion of what the actual numbers are, and so we can understand where we are with the idea of circulators. So Commissioner Kemp, is your hand still up, or? Okay. With that, seeing no further discussion, Ms. Arthur, please take the roll.
Thank you. Director Castor?
Yes.
Director Frazier?
Yes.
Director Hudson?
Yes.
Director Johnson?
Yes.
Director Knight?
Yes.
Director Myers?
Yes.
Director Schisler?
Yes.
Director Williams?
Yes.
Director Kemp?
Yes.
Director McLean?
Yes.
Director Overman?
Yes.
Chair Smith?
Yes.
Director Vieira?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you. And that takes us to our consent agenda. Do we have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second, Director McLean.
All right. Seeing no discussion on the consent agenda, Ms. Arthur, please call the roll on the motion by Commissioner Overman, seconded by Director McLean, to approve the consent agenda item.
Thank you. Director Castor?
Yes.
Director Frazier?
Yes.
Director Hudson?
Yes.
Director Johnson?
Yes.
Director Knight?
Yes.
Director Myers?
Yes.
Director Schisler?
Yes.
Director Williams?
Yes.
Director Kemp?
Yes.
Director McLean?
Yes.
Director Overman,
Yes.
Chair Smith,
Yes.
Director Vieira.
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you. And that brings us to the interim CEO report. Ms. Ruthie? Yes, Commissioner Kemp.
Thank you. Could I just ask for a point of personal privilege? I just moving from the other agenda, and I was trying to be mindful of trying to move it through a little faster than we have been in the past. But I think we missed something a little momentous that I'd just like to point out. When we combined our purchase of the 16 CNG buses with our purchase of the 4 electric buses. And for anyone listening, because only the resolution number was said, they may not even know that if they weren't reading the agenda and aware of what was on it. So I would just like to say, again, a thank you to Congresswoman Kathy Castor for helping us move this along. We will be purchasing 4 electric buses and the electric infrastructure with them. And I think this is a great time. We're one of the last transit agencies in the state of Florida to purchase electric buses. They've had them almost everywhere. And I think this will be a great opportunity as we move forward for some quiet, and I will probably continue to argue fuel low cost and maintenance low cost vehicles to enter and our fleet and provide all as well climate benefits, and something that we should be very aware of here in one of the areas for most affected by climate change and sea level rise. So with that, I'd just like to make sure that we celebrate that a little bit, and wanted to make sure that everyone understood that.
Right. Thank you for calling that out, for highlighting a celebration, and gratitude for our Congresswoman Kathy Castor and her help with this. Thank you. And that brings us to the interim CEO report. Ms. Burkhart, you are recognized.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning to the board. I just wanted to say good morning to everyone, and again, thank you for this time. I apologize for a little bit of my raspy voice. I'm a little bit under the weather. But for next slide, Danielle, please. With regard to our COVID response, the agency has distributed over 17,000 face masks to customers, and we have also been continuously distributing those masks to our employees and other PPE supplies. And during the month of October, 3,994 vehicles were disinfected, and that's broken down by buses and vans. The cleaning hours for the month of October were almost 5,700 hours, and that is a lot of hours by our fleet and facility staff. Next slide. In the November 15 markup, which you all approved, was restoring regular HART services for all local routes, including the 275LX and the Tico Line streetcar. All other express and HART Flex routes are not yet in operations, but will be restored with the January markup, as a reminder. And just a little bit about our response that you heard about earlier from Ivan Maldonado on November 11, when Tropical Storm Ida threatened to affect the Hillsborough County area. HART met with EOC transportation stakeholders and implemented strategies for evacuation and transportation operations. And while there were no mandatory evacuations, 5 shelters were opened with additional shelters on standby. When HART learned that sustained winds around 40 miles an hour were expected in Hillsborough County at about 1 p.m., the operations of all transportation modes were ceased at noon that day. HART customers were informed of these actions using social media, the One Bus Away app, and the customer service division. On November 13, after ensuring that roads were clear for bus operations, HART resumed full operations at noon. Thank you. A very good thank you to the team for all of their efforts on that. For volunteering, we had some excellent volunteers over at Metropolitan Ministries during building Thanksgiving meals for community members in need. And then, of course, we've implemented our annual holiday toy drive. This began on November 19 and goes through December 11. The children at the children's home that will benefit from this drive range from the age of 5 to 17, New unwrapped gifts are being accepted and cash donations are being accepted. Mona Caravan, who has been spearheading this drive, will shop for you. She is a clear shopaholic, but she also has a huge heart. This will be delivered to the home and sorted and gift wrapped by volunteers at the home. This is a new exciting announcement. HART is excited to announce that we received 6 new paratransit and flex vehicles out of the 43 that were ordered. These vans will replace existing vans that met their useful life while providing a reliable fleet and overall rewarding experience for our customers. And we're also pleased to announce that there should be enough remaining funds to purchase additional vans out of this funding. This is possible because the resolution for the van purchase that was approved by the board, each vehicle was estimated at $100,500, but the actual cost came in at $85,611. There will be funds remaining from the last year's purchase and $200,000 from Hillsborough County. So expect an action item to be brought to the December committee meeting and the January board meeting for approval to purchase those vehicles. November's operational blitz, our operations team is always on the blitz, if you will. November 17th, ATU leadership and HART leadership, safety and controllers and supervisors all participated in the blitz. Bottled water, snacks, safety reminders, and thank yous were handed out to bus operators throughout the system, and bus and van leaving the yard that day at pullout. This group also stopped by customer service to ensure that all employees sort of met with us and understood our safety commitments, and also to say thank you to those employees. A little bit about ridership and revenue loss. Operations under the COVID environment required changes on how we delivered service, had a significant impact on HART ridership and corresponding fare box collection and outlet sales. For the period of November 2020 through November 2020, HART's GFI, which is our fare box, recorded ridership down at 51.6% for the same period in 2019, 4.3 million riders versus 8.8. The fare box collections are similarly lower at 51.1% from the previous year, for a loss of 2.54 million. Outlet sales for the same period are also lower by 0.44 million. Total estimated losses to date are nearly 3 million. Streetcar update streetcar vehicle 429 on February 3rd, vehicle 429 was, streetcar 429 was damaged in the accident where it collided with a tour bus. The tour bus was found at fault and the tour bus company was insured and did not contest liability. For this accident, HART sent the car to GoMaco, the manufacturer in Iowa, who assessed that the frame would have to replace and that repair estimates would far exceed the value of the car. An insurance check of $271,902.40 has been received. The car is coming back to HART to salvage critical parts that cannot be obtained based on the age of these vehicles. And then lastly, I would just say that our team, Holiday Elves at HART, have put together a last-minute holiday luncheon for the employees, but we are doing so with all of our social distancing efforts in hand, and we have procured a food truck luncheon to happen at our operations facility outside of the building under tents to ensure proper social distancing. All of the meals will be served in to-go containers. There will be a lunch and dinner time allowing for all shifts to participate. And we also would encourage, and like if any of the board members to please like to attend, please contact Danielle Arthur or Lena Pettit to facilitate your visit. And that is all I have on that report. And then the last and final is the, apologize here. The sole source and deviations report. So we have 2 sole source documents that are in your packet there. One is they are both annual renewals of contracts. One is for Archive Corporation. That is our offsite storage for hard copy and electronic data. This is an annual fee that we pay to Archive Corporation. And obviously switching a vendor at this point would far exceed our savings. And then Trapeze Software Group, annual software renewal. Trapeze is our proprietary software used by HART related to scheduling, fixed route, run cutting, and operations and such. This sole source award is also the maintenance agreement, user license, and support services. With regard to the one-time deviation to the procurement manual, as also shown in your packet, a letter was received by the HART Board Chair from the ATU President Letitia Jones with respect to concerns with operations management and treatment of personnel. General Counsel and the Chair were in discussion. A call was made to the attorney who assisted with HART's ATU negotiations, under a consult with Jackson Lewis. William Mosley, the lawyer who represented us at this time, is not under contract in accordance with the manual. That conversation that was had by the General Counsel, ATU President, and myself came in with a bill of $595, and as such, not being part of a current contract is a deviation from that procurement manual. And that is all I have for that report, if you have any questions.
Thank you. Director Knight, you're recognized.
Madam Chair, he has left the meeting. Oh, I apologize. He's actually walking back in now.
He's got his hand up. Director Knight, did you want to say something?
No comments. Thank you.
All right. Director McLean, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to make a comment and then ask a question, if I may.
Sure.
For my comment, I just want to pass along some kudos, thank yous to Ms. Burkhart and the HART staff for their actions and activities in response to COVID-19. I think together, the staff and the leadership have done a superb job in supporting the community and the staff also, if you will, the employees. So my hats are off to Ms. Burkhart and the HART staff for their actions there. In regards to COVID-19, I would like to ask Ms. Burkhart, we're holding our meetings outside of HART facilities right now, and my understanding is the HART facilities could be used now due to their actions. And I just want to ask Ms. Burkhart if that's the case, if we could move back to the HART facilities to hold our in-person meetings.
Thank you, Director McLean. Yes, the HART boardroom has been updated to include some social distancing measures, including some of the plexiglass, as in the room that is being used now at the county center has been put in for the varying stations at the e-board room as well. It can seat 9 members of the board comfortably with those plexiglass stations assigned there. We also have brought in the I want to call them air conditioners, but air purifying machines, I apologize, that also are working within the room at all times. The rooms are also fogged for sanitation on a daily basis before and after meetings, and staff also takes precautions at each station after each use. So we are prepared and would entertain moving back to the EBOR building. We are holding our committee meetings there if it is the board's pleasure. However, it would be helpful to us to understand if we are doing that, since if we are not, in January for the regular board meeting, we do have to advise the county center, I believe, 2 days. So this is a timely conversation.
Thank you. Director McLean, does that answer your question?
Madam Chair, and I don't know if we need to it sounds like we need to make a decision today if we want to move the board back to the HART facilities. Of course, I would take the direction of the board here. So.
All right, Commissioner Overman, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to thank Ms. Burkhart for all of the work that she's done, for picking up the mantle, for helping us transition through this time period as we prepare for engaging a new CEO, and specifically in her support and working with the staff to support the Commission on Human Trafficking's effort to build a sustainable outreach and communications plan to fight human trafficking, as well as the training that many of the employees have that HART is participating in terms of addressing human trafficking. We are presenting to the statewide human trafficking task force meeting on Thursday, highlighting HART's participation and support for the communications and outreach, helping the state recognize HART's participation in communicating human trafficking awareness and outreach and what to do if you see it. So I just want to thank the staff and Ms. Burkhart for the work that you've done there, especially given that we have the opportunity to shine as a transit agency in our participation in fighting human trafficking in Hillsborough County. And thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Kemp, you're recognized.
Thank you. I just really, the HART staff and Ms. Burkhart have really stepped up to the plate in some huge, enormous way. So again, I just like to thank them all. In fact, it's been a pleasure to be working a little more closely and working with them. And I feel like it's there's been a healing time for the HART agency in this time. So thank you all very much for what you've done. To address Mr. McLean's comment, I think it's good to know that it is there and to begin thinking about it. I don't think we have HTV access from there, and we do have the a kind of bigger place still upstairs at County Center. It doesn't seem to make I would say a huge difference at this moment. Even it's good to know that it's ready. I'd be more comfortable at least reassessing it next month and thinking about it now, knowing that the possibility is there. So I appreciate the information, and I would still exercise a little caution and maybe have that brought up again next month.
Thank you. Yeah, I understand maybe one of the choke points is the elevator getting up to the HART boardroom. Ms. Burkhart,
there is signage. I apologize for interjecting. Yes, the elevator does have a signage there about how max capacity at one time, and then of course the lobby has messaging as well about that. We also do have a stairwell for those who would prefer not to get in an elevator, go one flight up to to our office. So we can make sort of accommodations in both ways, understanding the members that may be attending in person. And as I stated, we have already been hosting our committee meetings there, and we have had some of our members present there. So we have also 2 other entrances if it's a concern that we can utilize if we needed to provide additional, if you will, access to the second floor. It is a secondary entrance in the back of the building, which also allows for use to get to a secondary elevator if there were such a concern there as well. And for what it's worth, the space from a square footage perspective is about equal, and if not a bit larger, in the HART office, for what it's worth.
Okay.
Madam Chair, Director McLean.
Yes.
The reason I asked the question was twofold. One was I thought they were ready. We've done a superb job of taking care of the safety and security of not only our riders, but the employees of HART, and under Ms. Burkhart and the staff there have done a superb job there. I think for me, it was both an optic and a cost. Cost associated with the staff going back and forth. And also, I don't know if we have to pay for that conference room or not, or somehow. And the other thing was an optic. If we're telling our riders and our staff it's safe to get on our facilities, our buses, then it should be safe for us to go back into the facilities that we own and operate, if you will. So for me, it's a confidence level for the staff. It's a confidence level for HART in general. So that's why I brought it up. I understand we're into COVID. I understand all those issues that people have with COVID and how the safety is. But I have firm confidence in the HART staff and what they're doing over there. And so I, for one, am ready to move back into the HART facilities if called. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. How about if we, I wonder if we could leave it like this and say that staff will assess which way to go for us if they're ready to move us into the HART facility, understanding that that can accommodate 9, checking with the board members who will be attending there, and then let us know. And leave this decision up to Ms. Burkhart. Mr. McLean, how does that sound to you?
That's perfect. I agree with you. This is an administrative decision. We ought to leave it up to the folks that do that. So, fantastic. Thank you.
Great, and we can move back as soon as Mrs. Burkhart works that out with staff that they are ready to move us. Ms. Burkhart, how's that sound to you?
Thank you. I appreciate very much the comments also from the board today. And yes, we will get back an immediate answer to the board, and I guess Lena will distribute that, or Danielle by email.
Okay, great. And I too want to commend the staff, the way that the HART staff got our buses back up and running by noon the next day after Hurricane Eta was, I mean, that's what the hashtag HART Heroes is for. Volunteering in the community, and our procurement staff bringing in purchases way under budget of our paratransit vans. We have from top to bottom staff at HART that just never ceases to amaze me and make me proud. And all the way to the top, Ms. Burkhart, as well as our top level leadership team has really pulled together during trying times and kept HART moving, and not only kept HART moving, but really worked together in ways that are inspiring. And so I thank you all for all you are doing for us and for our agency. And seeing no other discussion, assuming Mr. Director McLean's hand is still left up there from before, we will move to the remnants of the General Counsel's report about the HART Board elections.
Yes, still good morning. This is the favorite time on the agenda, only because it portends the near end of the meeting. And the only thing I have left today is to advise you about the elections. For those of you who have not been through this process, we do this annually. We elect the chair, the vice chair, the secretary, and I believe we now have an assistant secretary in the event the secretary is not available because of the signature requirements that go with the position. So that will be an election in which nominations will come from the floor. I will conduct the election because I'm not running for anything, and we will see what the outcome is based upon the board's preferences. Also of note is the fact that committee assignments are attendant to this process. And what that means is you have in your packet a list of the various committees that are available for which you can serve. So you need to look at those and identify which ones you're willing to serve on. We always try to match people who are sincerely interested in a committee with service on that committee. Sometimes committees are more attractive when we have multiple people, sometimes not so much. There are several committees that are outside committees that are elected, such as, I believe, T-BARTA, I think maybe the streetcar board, but we will walk you through that process in January. I just wanted to give you a heads up because in your packet is information about your committee preferences that we need you to fill out. Send them in to Lena Pettit so that she can basically accumulate the data and have that available at the meeting so we can move forward quickly. Certain committees are simply appointed by the chair once the chair is elected, but the chair needs to know who's interested in those committees. So that's basically the process. Are there any questions on that? If not, I am through with the General Counsel report.
One question, and that is about the AHAB board. I saw that was still on the list, but as when we send that out to the board members, that's actually filled now?
Yes.
Vice there. This is Commissioner Overman. As chair of that board, that position has been filled for the next 12 months. and it would be available next January, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's a 1 or a 2 year appointment, and that position was just recently filled by Director Hudson. And unless he has plans to resign from it, I believe it's currently not available.
All right, thanks. Then we won't.
But they do need an alternate, so that's the one position that might be available for that particular position.
Thank you. All right, and thank you, Mr. Smith. The reports, items 11 through 14 are all in your agenda. Nothing left except to ask if there's any old business to discuss. Any board member wants to bring up any old business or any new business. And seeing none, I'm getting ready to adjourn if there's no other comments by the board. Hearing
Madam
none.
Chair,
Yes.
Vera, I'm sorry. I wanted to wish Mayor Castro a happy birthday.
Oh,
my goodness.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday. We won't sing, but you'll take our wishes with you.
And I just want to wish everyone a wonderful holiday season for whatever holiday you celebrate. Or please be safe, follow COVID safe procedures, and please enjoy the holiday season as we wait till January again.
Everybody, we're adjourned. Have a great afternoon. Have a great holiday season, and stay safe. Bye.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.